Chapter 863. The Supreme Mystic Immortal King instantly understood the meaning of the Deep Flame Immortal King's words. Qin Wenyan had actually offended His Majesty before and was abandoned by him. In this case, it was truly impossible for Qin Wenyan to enter the top 3. Only to see the Deep Flame Immortal King turning his gaze onto Qin Wenyan as he continued, "Back then, you've already missed your chance. If you want to make a comeback, it won't be so easy. If you enter the top 3 again, maybe His Majesty might look at you in a different light. But the top 3 positions are destined not to belong to you. The ending hasn't arrived yet, aren't you being too decisive?" Qin Wenyan stared at the Deep Flame Immortal King as he spoke. The lips of the Deep Flame Immortal King curled up in a cold smile. This person was truly naive. Did he really think that the reason why His Majesty didn't accept him as a disciple back then was because he had angered His Majesty? Now, he wanted to use his outstanding performance to convince His Majesty? How laughable! Qin Wenyan's hopes were destined to be dashed. Naturally, it was impossible for the Deep Flame Immortal King to tell Qin Wenyan about this. He turned and spoke in a low voice. "Some things are already destined. They can't be changed with hard work." The meaning behind his words was extremely profound. "Some things, until the very end, you will never know the ending." Qin Wenyan replied. If the Deep Flame Immortal King carefully pondered over this sentence, he might discover that there was a deeper meaning behind it as well. However, the Deep Flame Immortal King didn't think too deeply about it. He only felt that Qin Wenyan didn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Qin Wenyan still believed that he would be able to enter the top 3, hence he used this sentence to reply to him. However, did he really understand what Qin Wenyan was trying to say? Just like what he had said earlier, some things were already destined. It wasn't something that could be changed even with hard work. On the surface, this might seem to be mocking Qin Wenyan's talent, but in reality, Qin Wenyan understood that no matter how high his talent was, the top 3 rankers would still be able to block him from entering. But what about Qin Wenyan's words? There were some things that you would never know until the very end. The Deep Flame Immortal King took his wine cup and walked away, chatting happily with the other immortal kings. It was as though the humiliation he received from Qin Wenyan earlier didn't affect his mood at all. As for the Supreme Mystic Immortal King, he cast a deep glance at Qin Wenyan as he sighed in his heart, feeling pity. He initially wanted to accept either Qin Wenyan or Jun Mingchen as his disciples. Even if they were truly fortunate enough to become sage child characters, he would still be able to guide them. But now, Immortal King Supreme Profundity shook his head and left without saying anything more. "So noisy, the ghosts won't go away." Jun Mingchen stared at the back view of the Deep Flame Immortal King as he clenched his fists tightly. This Deep Flame Immortal King had always been their enemy, pestering them with no intention of letting them off. "Qin Wenyan, I believe you can do it." Gu Lufeng patted Qin Wenyan's shoulder as he spoke. "Although you didn't manage to enter the top 20 this time around, don't be discouraged." Qin Wenyan spoke to Gu Lufeng. He still remembered back then when he first met Gu Lufeng. Gu Liufeng's demeanor was unmatched throughout the generations. "Don't worry, I'm not that weak. Maybe, my personality has changed, I'm inferior to you and Hua Taishu. Back in our particle world, I was a peerless genius. But when I came to the immortal realms, I saw many people who could suppress me, causing my personality to change. Maybe, I should learn from Hua Taishu and roam the immortal realms." Gu Lufeng spoke in a low voice. "I believe in you." Qin Wenyan smiled. There were simply too many geniuses in the immortal realms. If the geniuses of particle worlds didn't improve in the immortal realms, they truly couldn't be considered anything. After entering the immortal realms, you still needed to improve step by step. The people here were the most outstanding geniuses in the 13 prefectures. Which one of them wouldn't be a peerless genius if they were placed in their particle worlds? Next, the cultivation bases of the top 20 are all different. I wonder what rules will be used to select the top 10. I think that they will suppress their cultivation bases to the same level or it wouldn't be fair. Gu Lufeng spoke in a low voice. Everyone's cultivation base was different, it was truly difficult to compare. On the great platform, Those immortal kings were also discussing the rules for the next round. For the top 20, the top 10 would be selected. In truth, they only needed to make it relatively fair. There was no way to make it absolute. There were many methods they could use to choose from, but the crucial point still depended on Dong Xingting's will. After all, he was the host of this immortal banquet on behalf of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. The immortal banquet was extremely lively. Those eliminated geniuses also gradually accepted the atmosphere of the immortal banquet. Although they missed this opportunity, they would still be core disciples of the Dongshengxian Gate in the future. They could even become elites and have a chance to enter the tutelage of a supreme existence of the Dongshengxian Gate. As long as they were willing to work hard, they would definitely have a glorious future ahead of them. For the outstanding disciples of the Dongshengxian Gate, many of them would become hegemons of a region after they entered the 13 prefectures. If they could cultivate to the immortal king realm, they would even have the chance to control an entire prefecture. Such authority could be said to be towering over the heavens. Although immortal kings weren't that dazzling here, what sort of place was this? The immortal banquet of the Dongshengxian Gate was organized for the sake of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Immortal kings naturally wouldn't be that dazzling. Even for the idol cloud immortal king and the others, one couldn't ignore their authority. How vast was a prefecture? In the cloud prefecture, there were a total of 81 counties and countless cities. The idol cloud immortal king was the king of the prefecture. He could call the wind and summon the rain in the cloud prefecture. Although they were sitting together with the immortal kings now, this didn't mean that they truly felt that they have reached this level of status. It was only because this was an immortal banquet and they had to go through many tests to obtain this qualification. This proved that they had the potential to sit together with the immortal kings. As for their future, it would depend on how far they could reach in the future. As they chatted, time flowed by unknowingly. Dong Xingting returned to his seat and the various immortal kings also gradually quietened down as they returned to their seats. The experts below all soon quietened down. That powerful aura instantly caused them to feel a sense of imposingness from Dong Xingting. Dong Xingting swept his gaze over everyone as he spoke. Before this, I discussed with Princess Lioli and some of the immortal king elders and have already decided on the rules for the next round. For this round, we will choose 10 participants from the 20 participants. For this round, there will be no ranking system and the top 10 participants will all have their own rewards. The rewards will be given out after the immortal banquet ends. Naturally, for the top 3 rankers, their rewards are the most valuable. If you want to enter the top 3, you must first enter the top 10. The rules are very simple. Just follow the order of the names called out by Princess Lioli earlier. One by one, all of you will challenge those who are at the same level as you. There's no need to suppress your cultivation base. But for those who are at a different level, I will use treasures to suppress your cultivation base to the same level. The victors will temporarily be safe, and for the losers, after the first round of battle ends, you will still have a chance to challenge your opponent. For those who are defeated, they will be eliminated. Dong Xingting slowly continued, and there's one more point. For those who have already been defeated, the others cannot choose to challenge them again. I will give them a chance to take the initiative to prevent a situation where 2 powerful characters suppress a single genius. Everyone should be clear of this, right? The spectators nodded their heads. Dong Xingting had already explained things very clearly. They naturally understood. For the first battle, Gusu Tianqi, get on the platform. Dong Xingting's gaze swept over, landing in the direction of the eastern prefecture. Gusu Tianqi's silhouette flickered as he directly appeared on the platform. Momentarily, the other 19 participants all felt extremely nervous. If Gusu Tianqi chose to fight against them, the probability of them losing was extremely high. In that case, they would only have one chance to take the initiative and challenge someone else. For those who lost both battles, they would be eliminated. Supreme Moon Prefecture, Mo Wen. Gusu Tianqi emotionlessly spoke. Upon seeing him choosing Mo Wen, some people were extremely shocked. Mo Wen was the top ranker of the Supreme Moon Prefecture. Among the top 20, only Shi and Zi Qingxian were females. However, The spectators instantly understood the reason why Gusu Tianqi chose Mo1. Maybe to him, it was the same no matter who he challenged. But since Mo1 had the same cultivation base as him, there was no need for them to suppress their cultivation bases and they could directly fight against each other. Gusu Tianqi didn't like trouble. A simple and straightforward battle would naturally be the best. Mo1's silhouette flickered as she swiftly appeared on the platform. She was clad in an icy blue robe, exuding an extraordinary aura. Her countenance was fair and clean, akin to a snow maiden of ice, pure and untainted by dust. Mo1, can she fight against Gusu Tianqi? Jun Mingchen mumbled. Staring at the maiden before him, a trace of concern could be seen in his eyes. Somewhat difficult, but Mo1 isn't ordinary either. Even if Gusu Tianqi wants to fight against her, he would have to bring out his true strength. Qin Wentian spoke. After the three of them saw Mo1 ascending the platform, all of them were paying close attention to Mo1. Because Mo1 came from the same place as them. Mo1 of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, a disciple of the Heavenly Talisman Realm. In the top 20, other than the three of them, there was another disciple from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. Mo1. Out of the top 20, 4 of them were from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. From the start till the end, they didn't even greet each other. In fact, they didn't even reveal any hints of their intentions, only silently observing each other's existence. Mo1, who was clad in icy blue robes, appeared extremely calm. When she saw the blazing battle light radiating from Gusu Tianqi, a crisp crackling sound rang out in her surroundings as a world of ice appeared. The temperature of the surroundings abruptly plummeted. How cold! Even those seated far away from Gu Zhantian could feel the coldness radiating from Mo1. What was even more terrifying was that right now, Mo1's black hair had transformed into strands of icy silver, akin to sharp swords that hung behind her back. Her entire person seemed to have undergone a transformation. That frosty beauty's body was now covered with a layer of dreamlike aura, resembling a true ice queen. Dong Xingting's attack bore down on Mo1, exuding an incomparably resplendent light that was as dazzling as the sun. But when his attack neared Mo1, it felt as though even the light of the sun had turned into ice. Crackling sounds rang out. The fist light Dong Xingting blasted out was actually frozen solid. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying this coldness was. An ice spear shot out, and as crisp crackling sounds rang out, the frozen fist light shattered apart. That fearsome attack of Dong Xingting's was instantly neutralized. This Mo1 also has a unique physique. It seems to be the rarely seen innate Frost King physique. An immortal king mumbled. If it wasn't for the fact that Gusu Tianqi was incomparably confident, he wouldn't have chosen Mo1 for his first battle. Chapter 864. Gusu Tianqi retreated, returning to his original location. He didn't choose to continue attacking. When facing an opponent, a single strike would allow him to probe the depth of his opponent's strength. Mo1 before him had an extraordinary physique and was an innate Frost King. Just based on pure attacks, he naturally wouldn't be able to defeat Mo1. Bzz. In the air, a terrifying blazing furnace appeared, enveloping the space above the battle platform. At the same time, numerous suns appeared in the air, a total of 9 suns. The light from each of the suns directly shot into the furnace, causing it to erupt with a terrifying heat. You aren't my opponent. Gusu Tianqi spoke in arrogance. As the sound of his voice faded, the boundless divine light from the furnace cascaded down onto him. Gusu Tianqi, who was immersed within, was akin to a heavenly divinity descending to the mortal world, unexcelled in this world. How powerful! The hearts of the spectators trembled. Before this, Gusu Tianqi didn't even use his full strength and easily defeated his opponents. But now, when he released his constellation, the might of that constellation was boundless. For ordinary opponents, there was no need for him to attack. That constellation was sufficient to slaughter countless experts on the same level as him. In front of absolute strength, numbers were nothing. Most probably, even if thousands of experts on the same level attacked Gusu Tianqi, they would still be incinerated by him. Mo Wen's fairy-like beautiful eyes also flickered with a solemn light. Her aura was still being released as a wave of ice engulfed the entire battle platform. In the air, an ice constellation manifested, clashing against Gusu Tianqi's furnace. Half of the sky was as hot as the blazing sun, while the other half was as cold as winter. In the air, the silhouettes of numerous frost kings appeared. They were all akin to ice goddesses, wielding long spears of ice in their hands. Their bodies seemed illusory yet real as they stared at Gusu Tianqi. Boom! Gusu Tianqi stepped out as the light from the 9 blazing suns grew even more intense. The light from the smelting furnace cascaded downwards, wanting to incinerate this entire space. Gusu Tianqi moved, radiating the light of a battle god as he moved towards Mo Wen. A blazing sun-long spear appeared in his hands. He stabbed out with his spear. This spear was like a real sun, penetrating through everything. Everywhere it passed by, a fiery light seemed to appear in the void, as though it was about to burn. In the void, the Ice Queen wielded the long spears in her hands and attacked at the same time. In an instant, the heavens and the earth were frozen. An ice light screen appeared, blocking in front of Mo Wen. The sun-long spear attacked. On top of the furnace, an incomparably hot flame began to spread from the tip of the spear, melting the ice light screen bit by bit. Break! Gusu Tianqi coldly snorted. A crisp cracking sound rang out as the icy screen of light shattered. His long spear was faster than light as it shot towards Mo Wen's throat. Mo Wen lifted his palms as boundless runic light flashed, transforming into a terrifying diagram that transformed into chains that frenziedly wrapped around the long spear, shooting towards Gusu Tianqi. Gusu Tianqi's other hand stretched out behind him. Instantly, numerous sun spears shot out explosively. Mo Wen retreated as the frost diagram in his hand shattered apart. Come down! Gusu Tianqi's palms waved in the air as numerous sun spears descended. His body shone with boundless radiance, resembling the god of the sun. Die! With a howl of rage, the sun-long spear shot out explosively in front of him. At the same time, Gusu Tianqi took a step forward, and with every step he took, his aura grew stronger. Gusu Tianqi's battle chi continued to surge madly. Mo Wen's entire body was enveloped by ice. When she saw the blazing battle light radiating from Gusu Tianqi, she knew that she had no way to win against him. She then spoke, "I've lost." As the sound of her voice faded, Gusu Tianqi halted his steps. That towering aura instantly vanished without a trace. Gusu Tianqi calmly stood on the battle platform. It was simply impossible to imagine that a 6th-level ascendant like him would be able to unleash such a towering aura. However, Mo Wen was also very powerful. It was just that she took the initiative to give up. She didn't want to waste too much energy fighting against Gusu Tianqi. From Mo Wen's point of view, it wasn't worth it to go all out against Gusu Tianqi. In the next battle, she had the initiative in her hands. She would definitely win. The two of them walked down the battle platform, leaving behind a deep impression in the hearts of the spectators. Second battle, Feather King of the Western Desert Prefecture. Dong Xingting's countenance remained unchanged as he spoke again. Feather King stood up, and with a flap of his wings, he instantly landed on the battle platform. Feather King's countenance was extremely sharp, exuding an imposing aura. He naturally wouldn't challenge Gusu Tianqi, and after Mo Wen was defeated, he wouldn't be able to challenge her. Hence, there were only 17 participants remaining. Feather King's cultivation base was at the 7th level of Celestial Phenomenon. If he had the same considerations as Gusu Tianqi, he might have chosen an opponent at the same level as him. Those at the same level as Feather King were the top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianqian, and the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Gu Zhantian. The three of them were the top rankers of their respective prefectures. In the earlier battles, they avoided clashing against each other. But in the future, it would be unavoidable for them to clash against each other. And indeed, Feather King's eyes flickered as he stared at Yi Qianqian and Gu Zhantian. The Qian Prefecture was one of the 3 great prefectures, and its fame was even greater. His gaze finally landed on Gu Zhantian as he spoke, "I shall choose you." Gu Zhantian's countenance stiffened, the others were all shocked as well. Feather King actually chose Gu Zhantian, the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Gu Zhantian. In a situation where Qin Wendian, Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian were present, he managed to stand out and obtain the position of the top ranker. There was no need to doubt his combat strength and talent. Also, Gu Zhantian's performance earlier was extremely domineering as well. Yet under such circumstances, Feather King still chose to challenge Gu Zhantian. Such spirit wasn't something ordinary people could possess. Feather King, as expected of a young king from the winged devil race of the Western Desert Prefecture. Gu Zhantian's countenance turned cold. He was actually the second person to be challenged. This in itself was an act of contempt towards him. An instant later, Gu Zhantian stood on the battle platform, facing against Feather King. On Feather King's back, a pair of violet gold wings unfurled, incomparably dazzling. Devil runes circulated around his body, exuding an unexcelled might. Experts from the winged devil race, tempering themselves in the starry space, their speed and strength were all monstrous. Gu Zhantian's aura erupted forth as a flood dragon manifested, similarly displaying an incomparably powerful might. Only to see Feather King's silhouette flashed like a bolt of lightning, directly appearing before Gu Zhantian as he punched out, manifesting a towering amount of devil runes. Gu Zhantian roared in rage. His flood dragon howled as he rushed forth, clashing head-on with Feather King. An intense boom rang out, causing the entire battle platform to tremble. The might of the two of them towered up into the sky, directly clashing against each other. Chaotic currents of energy gathered around the two of them. Behind Gu Zhantian, a flood dragon could be seen howling unceasingly as a terrifying flood dragon appeared in the air. It was as though Gu Zhantian wanted to transform into a flood dragon. As for Feather King, he was even more unexcelled in the world. Terrifying devil runes circulated around his body, as though he had transformed into an astral war beast. His wings were also covered with countless devil runes. Kill! Gu Zhantian roared in rage, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. There seemed to be a body of a flood dragon enveloping him, and every strike he blasted out didn't feel like he was the one attacking. Instead, it felt like an incomparably baleful flood dragon was roaring, fighting a grand battle. Feather King's body seemed to have turned into a devil. Devil runes wrapped around him, and at this moment, he exuded the majesty of a human, the tyranny of a devil, and the violence of a demon. His punches caused the entire space to tremble. The two of them directly attacked each other, using the simplest method to battle. But this method is also the most dangerous and violent. The hearts of the spectators trembled. Both of them were extremely arrogant and didn't even bother to probe each other's strength. They directly clashed against each other, their bodies grew taller and taller, like two ancient war beasts clashing against each other in the air. How violent! The hearts of the spectators trembled. Gu Zhantian is the descendant of that madman. He would naturally be crazy when he fights. However, his opponent is none other than Feather King, the young king of the winged devil race. The Idol Cloud Immortal King felt his heart trembling. In an instant, it was unknown how many times the two of them clashed. Finally, Gu Zhantian let out a heaven-shaking roar as his long hair fluttered in the wind. His bloodline power surged forth, and at this moment, the originally handsome Gu Zhantian transformed into a three-headed and six-armed form, his attacks shaking the heavens and earth. However, the devilization of Feather King grew even more terrifying. His entire body transformed into a devil king as his wings flashed with killing intent. The attacks from his wings were even sharper than swords and sabers. The speed of their attacks was so fast that the eyes of the spectators couldn't even follow them. Gu Zhantian roared in rage as a divine glow enveloped him, raising his combat prowess. Boom! The sky trembled as numerous Feather King silhouettes appeared in the air. The number of silhouettes increased unceasingly, filling the entire starry space. These silhouettes all attacked at the same time, fighting against Gu Zhantian alone. Gu Zhantian folded ancient seals with his hands. His three-headed and six-armed form was enveloped by a divine glow, as though there was a divinity protecting him. He unleashed heaven-shaking attacks in different directions. There was a flood dragon tearing apart the sky, a Kuanping spreading its wings, a Kirin going berserk. Each and every attack was so powerful that it caused the bodies of Feather King to shatter unceasingly. Powerful, too tyrannical. The combat prowess of these two. The spectators inclined their heads and stared at the starry sky. At this moment, a supreme devil appeared in the air, enveloping Feather King. At this moment, Feather King seemed to have transformed into an ancient devil. When he attacked, the devil in the air attacked as well. Gu Zhantian's countenance drastically changed as he howled in rage, causing chaos to erupt in the sky. Gu Zhantian is about to be defeated. He has already used up all his trump cards. The countenances of the spectators changed when they saw this. This young king of the winged devil race, the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, was simply too terrifying. And as expected, after the chaos, Gu Zhantian was finally blasted off the platform. Feather King's wings flapped as he floated in the air, coldly staring down at Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian was defeated. Only to see at this moment, Gu Zhantian's countenance turned ashen. He was defeated. He was actually defeated. Beautiful. In the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mingchen was extremely excited when he saw Gu Zhantian's defeat. In this case, as long as he lost one more round, he would be eliminated. Senior brother, I will challenge Gu Zhantian later and make him fight against me. I want him to be unable to enter the top 10. Jun Mingchen's eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. Qin Wenyin glanced at Jun Mingchen as a cold light flickered in his eyes. Gu Zhantian and Black Peak, these two must be ruthlessly abused. However, since Gu Zhantian was defeated, he couldn't challenge Qin Wenyin anymore. Gu Zhantian had the initiative for the next battle. Chapter 865. Feather King's wings flapped as he transformed into a beam of violet gold light, instantly returning to his seat. Gu Zhantian exuded a sense of desolation as he walked towards the Cloud Prefecture's camp. The halo of the top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture hung above his head, yet he was defeated by the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Feather King. Even his arrogance involuntarily retracted. The Winged Devil race is known as the top ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, but they only won by a hair's breadth. Gu Zhantian is indeed the top ranker of our Cloud Prefecture. An expert from the Cloud Prefecture spoke, as though he was consoling Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian's eyes flashed as he felt more comfortable in his heart. But in truth, a defeat was a defeat. Gu Zhantian himself was merely seeking comfort in his heart. At this moment, a cold snort rang out, extremely ear-piercing to the ears. Gu Zhantian furrowed his brows, and after that, he heard Jun Mingchen speaking. What top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture? Earlier in the selection test, us three brothers didn't do our best. If not, senior brother Qin wouldn't have jumped 3 levels to challenge him, and the position of the top ranker would not have fallen to him. How ridiculous. Back then you guys were defeated. Gu Zhantian obtained the position of the top ranker, but now you guys are trying to find excuses. The expert who spoke earlier glanced at Jun Mingchen. He was someone from the Battle Heaven's immortal manor and wasn't on good terms with Qin Wenyin and the others. In that case, isn't it even more ridiculous for you to find excuses for Gu Zhantian's defeat? He was defeated by someone on the same level. How shameless. Jun Mingchen intentionally mocked. Facing the sharp gaze of Gu Zhantian, he continued in arrogance. Gu Zhantian, you merely cultivated for a few years earlier, hence your cultivation base is slightly higher. As for the so-called top ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, that's nothing but a joke. Not long ago, you were still incomparably arrogant, yet you were defeated by someone on the same level? How ridiculous. If this wasn't an immortal banquet, just based on your words, I would have killed the 3 of you. Gu Zhantian's voice was ice-cold as he stared at Jun Mingchen, Qin Wenyin and Qin Wenyin. Ah, how shameless. Jun Mingchen roared with laughter. It's easy to kill us. So what if it's during the immortal banquet? Later on, when you have the initiative to challenge me, you can just challenge me. If you want to fight me to the death, that's not a problem. Do you dare? As Jun Mingchen spoke, he pointed his finger at Gu Zhantian, exuding an incomparable arrogance. causing many to turn their gazes over. This battle was originally supposed to be fought by Jun Mingchen, but sadly, Gu Zhantian had already been defeated and he had no way to take the initiative to challenge Jun Mingchen. Internal battle of the Cloud Prefecture, interesting. This young man seems to be intentionally provoking Gu Zhantian, wanting to settle the grudge between them here. The spectators instantly saw through Jun Mingchen's thoughts. As for Gu Zhantian, he was just defeated and was even pointed at by Jun Mingchen. How could he swallow this anger? Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Gu Zhantian walked towards the crowd and closed his eyes to meditate. That earlier battle had stirred him up greatly. He needed to calm his heart and prepare for the next battle. Earlier, Jun Mingchen's battle had also caused Gu Zhantian to be extremely shocked. He felt some trepidation in his heart. Under the situation where he was poisoned by the blood poison, he was actually able to kill the disciple of the absolute poison immortal king. That strike left a deep impression on everyone. If Jun Mingchen was in his peak condition, he didn't know if Gu Zhantian would be able to block it. And it was precisely because of that attack that Princess Glaze placed Jun Mingchen at the very top of the list of candidates for the next round. For this battle, Jun Mingchen would be the one to fight. Jun Mingchen's silhouette stepped onto the platform, causing many to be filled with nervousness. Each of the participants before him all had extremely high combat prowess. In addition to the fact that there were already 4 participants who fought before him, Jun Mingchen would definitely choose one of the remaining 15 participants, excluding Qin Wendian and Zi Qingxian. For those on the same level as Jun Mingchen, only the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, is left. I wonder if he would choose Xia Jiufeng or not. The hearts of the spectators mused. And indeed, the crowd saw Jun Mingchen staring in the direction of the Eastern Prefecture. He then stared at Xia Jiufeng as he spoke, "You shall fight." Xia Jiufeng was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture and was also extremely powerful. When he fought, he was like a crazed devil and was an extremely terrifying character. Before the immortal banquet started, many people in the external world thought highly of him and felt that he had a high chance of becoming one of the top 3 rankers. But following the commencement of the immortal banquet, more and more peerless geniuses appeared. Not to mention the top 3, even the competition for the top 10 positions was extremely intense, and it was hard to obtain a single seat. Xia Jiufeng swiftly appeared in front of Jun Mingchen. The two of them stood facing each other, and at the same instant, an incomparably violent aura gushed forth from both of them as their constellations appeared. Jun Mingchen's king constellation seemed to have a majestic king standing behind him as a terrifying Jun Mingchen's shadow could be seen in the air. This shadow was the constellation he had comprehended and was extremely unique, completely different from the constellations of ordinary people. It was a fusion of many types of true intents, manifesting the physique of a king. Xia Jiufeng's constellation was actually somewhat similar to Jun Mingchen's constellation. Jun Mingchen's constellation was in the form of a human while Xia Jiufeng's constellation was in the form of a beast. It was an incomparably terrifying demonic beast that resembled a barbaric ox king. It had a pair of horns on its head and its entire body was crimson in color. It was tens of meters tall and exuded an incomparably fearsome might. One was like a war king while the other was like a crazed demon king. The two of them stepped out, rushing towards each other. Only to see Jun Mingchen howling as the terrifying shadow of his constellation also howled in rage. Violent killing intent gushed forth, as though there were demonic beasts and divine weapons gushing out. This entire space transformed into a chaotic battlefield, sweeping through the void, annihilating everything. Xia Jiufeng roared in rage. He punched out with both fists, instantly causing chaos to erupt in the sky. Numerous barbaric demonic beasts rushed out, suppressing everything in all directions, wanting to destroy everything. The two of them clashed head-on. Offense is the foundation of stellar martial cultivators. Any supreme expert would definitely have an extremely powerful offense. This batch of geniuses are simply too many in terms of offense. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw this. Before this, Feather King, Gu Zhantian, as well as Gusu Tianqi and Mo Wen, All of their attacks were extremely terrifying. Jun Mingchen's attacks were tyrannical, akin to a king. Xia Jiufeng's attacks were wild and savage. The collision between the two of them could be said to be world-shaking. For a period of time, a chaotic shockwave filled the air, as though the entire space was about to shatter apart. Die! Jun Mingchen roared. A boundless king halo radiated from him, causing his physique to grow even more imposing. His attacks exuded the aura of a king, casually pointing a finger at Xia Jiufeng, as though a casual punch could destroy everything in its path. The pressure on Xia Jiufeng was extremely great. He inclined his head and howled, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The constellation in his constellation grew even more chaotic as an incomparably gigantic demonic shadow appeared in the air. Xia Jiufeng soared up into the air, floating in the air. He stared at Jun Mingchen as he roared, "You will lose for sure." As the sound of his voice faded, he howled once more as he punched out with both his fists. Instantly, countless barbarian demonic beasts trampled through the air, numbering in the tens of thousands. For a moment, the rumbling sounds caused the eardrums of the spectators to tremble. The attack of a single barbarian king was already incomparably powerful. Now that there were tens of thousands of barbarian king demonic beasts, how crazy was that? Jun Mingchen stood proudly in the air. Upon feeling the destructive qi gushing over, he donned a dazzling king battle robe as the king's silhouette behind him shone with a resplendent light, causing an incomparably divine battle halo to envelop Jun Mingchen. "How can you defeat me?" Jun Mingchen was incomparably arrogant, standing in the air as a boundless divine glow radiated from him. When the barbarian bull smashed into Jun Mingchen, it actually crumbled apart, having no way to move him at all. Rumble, boundless energy gushed forth, yet they were all destroyed. Upon seeing this scene, Xia Jiufeng, who was in the air, was completely dumbfounded. He stared in disbelief at this scene, staring at Jun Mingchen, who was advancing step by step. The spectators were all dumbfounded. Jun Mingchen, how terrifying was he? If it wasn't for him being careless and being poisoned by the blood poison earlier, he wouldn't have been able to defeat the disciple of the absolute poison sect. Xia Jiufeng's countenance drastically changed. Although this wasn't his maximum combat strength and he could still be stronger than this, when he saw this scene, his confidence was instantly shattered as his countenance turned pale. Staring at the silhouette of that supreme king getting closer and closer, Xia Jiufeng couldn't help but to sigh in his heart. How many geniuses were there in this batch of participants? "I concede." Xia Jiufeng spoke, admitting defeat. He was completely convinced. "Thank you for letting me win." Jun Mingchen emotionlessly spoke. His aura of a king gradually retracted as the two of them left the battle platform together. When Jun Mingchen returned to the Cloud Prefecture's camp, he smiled at Qin Wenyan and Zi Qingxian, resembling the radiance of a young man. It was simply impossible to imagine the imposingness he exuded during combat. Even Gu Zhantian, who was not far away from him, had a hint of trepidation in his eyes when he stared at Jun Mingchen, feeling somewhat worried about the upcoming battle. Suppressing their cultivation bases, would he, Gu Zhantian, be able to defeat Jun Mingchen? Could this Jun Mingchen grow any stronger? Has he reached his limit? Nobody knew. Other than being poisoned by the blood poison, there was no one else who could force Jun Mingchen to his limits. And when he was poisoned by the blood poison, he destroyed his opponent with a single punch as well as the radiance radiating from him earlier. "Senior brother, it's your turn." Jun Mingchen didn't bother about the shocked crowd. He spoke to Qin Wenyan. Right now, they only had a single goal, to become one of the top 3 rankers. The few of them had to fight for it. At the very least, one of them had to ruthlessly slap the Deep Flame Immortal King's face. Nothing was fated. Qin Wenyan nodded his head lightly as he walked forward. An instant later, he appeared on the battle platform. His gaze swept over the crowd, causing many to speculate. Who would this Qin Wenyan challenge? Only to see at this moment, Qin Wenyan turned his gaze onto the Deep Flame Immortal King as a mocking smile appeared on his face. He would let the Deep Flame Immortal King see the ending. But before that, it was time to settle the grudge between him and Black Peak. I challenge the disciple of the deep flame immortal king, Black Peak. Qin Wentian's voice was cold, intentionally adding the words disciple of the deep flame immortal king in front of Black Peak's name. His meaning was clear even without words. He wanted to challenge Black Peak to slap the deep flame immortal king's face and let everyone see how he defeated the disciple of the deep flame immortal king. Chapter 866. The deep flame immortal king sat there, staring at Gu Zhantian, staring at the young man who stood there arrogantly, staring back at him. At this moment, the self-confidence in Qin Wentian's eyes made it seem as though to him, fighting against Black Peak was an extremely easy task. This was a battle he would definitely win, a battle to humiliate him, the deep flame immortal king. The deep flame immortal king was speechless. He didn't say anything. He only glanced at Black Peak, hoping that his disciple wouldn't disappoint him. Black Peak walked towards the battle platform step by step. Even before he stepped on the platform, a terrifying aura gushed forth from him. An abyss of destruction manifested, as terrifying abyssal flames that could devour everything appeared. The black-colored light radiating from it caused people to feel a deep sense of dread. Different cultivation levels suppress each other. Dong Xingting spoke. An instant later, an immortal king waved his hand. In an instant, a terrifying diagram manifested in the airspace above Gu Zhantian. This diagram directly enveloped the entire area, and in an instant, Black Peak and Qin Wenin both felt a sense of suppression. Their cultivation bases were now the same level. Black Peak's constellation manifested as his aura grew stronger and stronger. His palms stretched out, exuding a terrifying black-colored destructive energy, causing the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Black Peak followed the deep flame immortal king to temper himself, cultivating in the outside world and receiving the guidance of the deep flame immortal king. His attacks would surely be extremely terrifying. As for this Qin Wenin, he's also an existence that no one can see through and has shocking potential. Before this, Qin Wenin once humiliated Black Peak, saying that he spared Black Peak's life. Let's see if Black Peak can wash away that humiliation with this battle. The spectators only saw that the two of them didn't move, but the auras they exuded grew more and more ferocious, growing stronger and stronger. Strands of abyssal black mist circulated around Black Peak. The destructive energy contained in his palms grew stronger and stronger, as though his constellation wanted to devour the heavens and earth into the abyss. Those arrogant words you said earlier, if you can't prove them with your actions, how are you going to continue living in this world? Black Peak walked forth step by step. Every single step he took gave off a feeling of extreme danger. At this moment, Qin Wentian's aura also gushed forth ferociously. The violet gold suppression constellation shone resplendently as a silhouette of light floated behind him, exuding a heaven-suppressing might. With a thunderous boom, his entire body radiated a dazzling light as he unleashed his battle art. His entire body was shrouded in a resplendent light, resembling a god of war. Boom! There seemed to be a roaring wave coming out of his body, buzzing. The halo on Qin Wentian's body became even more dazzling. He released the second battle art, and the power of his body increased by several times. What secret art is this? It seems like Gusu Tianqi has also cultivated this energy before. Eastern Sage Cliff. Those experts from the Dongshengshan Gate all understood when they saw this scene. They naturally knew what the battle art Qin Wentian unleashed signified. This was an immortal art left behind by an extremely powerful immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate. Only those with extremely high comprehension abilities would be able to comprehend it. In such a short period of time, he was actually able to comprehend two battle arts at the same level as Gusu Tianqi. Someone spoke in a low voice. This battle art is different from the other places in the Eastern Sage Cliff. It purely relies on one's comprehension ability. Many people have immersed themselves in it for many years, yet they still couldn't even see the surface of it. This has nothing to do with the amount of time they spent in it. For those with inferior comprehension abilities, they wouldn't be able to comprehend anything at all. That's right, this Qin Wentian has comprehended the second battle art. His comprehension ability is extremely high. Just as they were conversing, an even more resplendent light radiated from Qin Wenyin. He seemed to have transformed into a true god of war. His entire body seemed to have undergone a transformation. Battle light enveloped him, as though he was clad in battle armor, incomparably resplendent and resplendent. 3 levels. The eyes of several immortal kings froze as they stared at Qin Wenyin, who was on the battle platform. Before this, Qin Wenyin had also used battle arts, but this was the first time he unleashed the 3rd level. In the short period of time he spent cultivating in the Eastern Sage Cliff, Qin Wenyin had actually accomplished something many of his disciples would never be able to do. His comprehension ability is truly outstanding. Someone sighed. At this moment, Blackpeak's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. His aura grew stronger step by step as his destructive might towered up into the sky. His entire body radiated an aura of extreme danger. However, the aura radiating from Qin Wenyin didn't grow stronger step by step. Instead, it grew stronger by several times, causing Blackpeak to feel a sense of trepidation in his heart. A blood-colored light circulated around Qin Wentian's body. His eyes gleamed with a crimson light, exuding an incomparably demonic aura. With just a single glance, his dream world constellation manifested. Blackpeak only felt himself entering Qin Wentian's dream world as his countenance turned heavy. His aura, which was still growing stronger, was unceasingly suppressed by Qin Wentian's aura. At the same cultivation level, what do you have to fight against me? Qin Wenyin was incomparably cold and arrogant. On the surface of his body, runic light flowed. His body, which was originally already incomparably resplendent, was unceasingly growing brighter and brighter, causing Blackpeak to feel a sense of unease. How many trump cards did this man before him have? How strong could he be? Rumble. Qin Wentian's body expanded to 100 meters in size as he stared down at Blackpeak. At this moment, Blackpeak seemed so tiny in front of him, as though he couldn't even be mentioned. What did Blackpeak have to fight against Qin Wenyin? In terms of astral souls, one could say that Qin Wenyin wouldn't be at a disadvantage when facing against anyone. His constellation was strong and not weak. His bloodline was stronger than Blackpeak's. The 3-level battle art, the fiend god body refinement art, his body covered in divine inscriptions, all of these trump cards combined together caused Qin Wenyin to transform into a demonic god. Just by standing there, he gave off an incomparably terrifying pressure. Blackpeak inclined his head and stared at Qin Wenyin. His heart was constantly changing. As Qin Wentian's aura grew stronger, his self-confidence grew weaker and weaker. At this moment, he no longer had the conviction to press onwards. In addition to the fact that he was already defeated by Qin Wenyin at the Eastern Sage Cliff Range, there was already a shadow in his heart. His conviction was slowly being nibbled away, destroyed. Boom! Qin Wenyin took a step out as a thunderous bell chime rang out, causing Blackpeak's heart to pound as well. What do you have to fight against me? Qin Wenyin spoke again, his voice akin to thunder from a clear sky, blasting into Blackpeak's eardrums. In the center of his brows, an incomparably demonic light flashed as a 3rd eye appeared. In just an instant, a blood-colored bolt of lightning directly shot into Blackpeak's sea of consciousness. Instantly, Blackpeak felt a supreme pressure from Qin Wenyin attacking his will. Suppression. Qin Wentian's palm imprint blasted downwards. Terrifying runic light circulated within the palm imprint, containing a fearsome suppression law energy, causing the entire space to tremble. This energy was able to suppress the heavens and earth. The fiend god heavenly suppression art was able to kill immortals and devils. Thunderous roars of rage rang out. Blackpeak's will struggled, but when he broke free from Qin Wentian's will attack, he only saw that terrifying palm imprint slamming down with unstoppable force. Blackpeak's countenance was pale white. At this moment, he actually felt as though he couldn't defend against this attack. It was as though the supreme conviction he had gathered earlier had been completely shattered at this instant. Blackpeak roared in rage as a destructive might surged upwards, blasting towards the void. However, under the attack of the gigantic palm imprint that seemed capable of suppressing everything, it was directly reduced into nothingness. That palm imprint was too fast, so fast that it transformed into divine might, like a divinity wanting to destroy Blackpeak. Blackpeak's lips curled up, he was about to concede. Boom! An earth-shattering bell chime rang out. The timing was incomparably accurate. It was as though Blackpeak's voice rang out at the same time. The terrifying bell chime directly drowned out Blackpeak's voice, as though Blackpeak didn't even speak at all. Abruptly, an expression of despair flashed on his face. A thunderous boom rang out as the earth trembled violently. The entire ancient Zhangtian was trembling as the bell chimes continued reverberating through the air. It was like the echo of the earlier bell chimes, reverberating through the air. That echo was like the death knell of death. The gigantic palm imprint completely engulfed Blackpeak. The eyes of everyone widened. They didn't dare to believe this scene before their eyes. Blackpeak, the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, was actually killed by Qin Wenyin with a single strike? The Fiend God Heavenly Suppression Art was able to suppress and kill immortals and devils. In addition, Qin Wenyin used the 3 levels of the Fiend God Heavenly Suppression Art as well as many other trump cards. He wanted Blackpeak to die directly on the ancient Zhangtian platform, not giving him any chance at all. This battle was for the sake of taking Blackpeak's life. Boo! Staring at that incomparably gigantic frame, even immortal kings felt a sense of fear in their hearts. Blackpeak was the personal disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, yet he was killed by this young man with a single strike. Qin Wendian truly dared to kill him. Also, given their judgment, how could they not have discovered that earlier Blackpeak was shouting for him to concede? However, Qin Wendian was bent on taking his life, hence he used the bell chime to drown out Blackpeak's pleas for help. Qin Wendian had steeled his heart, he wanted to kill his opponent no matter what. And he did it. With just a single strike, he took Blackpeak's life, not even giving him the slightest chance of survival. This was simply a ruthless slap to the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King in front of everyone. In fact, he even stepped on the face of the Deep Flame Immortal King, using the most direct and brutal method to trample and humiliate him. Didn't the Deep Flame Immortal King look down on Qin Wendian? Didn't he say that it was impossible for Qin Wendian to enter the top 3? In that case, what about the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King? Qin Wendian, in front of everyone on the battle platform, I used a single strike to kill your disciple. The Deep Flame Immortal King truly felt pain from being trampled on. Earlier when he first saw Qin Wendian, he didn't care about Qin Wendian at all. But now, he was completely enraged. His anger wasn't because of Blackpeak's death. In truth, Blackpeak was killed by Qin Wendian in the most direct and violent manner, causing him to feel hatred for his disciple Blackpeak. That useless fellow caused him, as his master, to lose all face. His countenance turned black. This was especially so when Qin Wendian stood on the battle platform and stared at him from afar. Qin Wendian's attitude was like a victor, mocking him, an immortal king of a generation. The personal disciple of Senior Deep Flame Immortal King seems to be a little weak. Qin Wendian didn't bother about the expression on the Deep Flame Immortal King's face as he spoke. It was as though he was trampling on the Deep Flame Immortal King's face, and at the same time, stomping on it. This face was simply too painful. Chapter 867. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at Qin Wendian, his eyes cold as he spoke. Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian inclined his head, staring straight at the Deep Flame Immortal King. It's a small matter for you to provoke the seat. However, you actually dared to break the rules, killing Blackpeak after he admitted defeat, disregarding the rules of the Dongshengshan Gate, disregarding the existence of immortal kings. How should this crime be dealt with? The Deep Flame Immortal King coldly spoke. Did he admit defeat? I didn't hear it. If Senior Deep Flame Immortal King wants to take revenge publicly, I have nothing to say. Who asked you to be a supreme immortal king of the Dongshengshan Gate? As for me, I'm merely a celestial phenomenon ascendant who came here to participate in the immortal banquet. Qin Wendian directly retorted. He naturally didn't hear it. He was afraid that Blackpeak would admit defeat, hence he used his sound waves to drown out Qin Wentian's voice. Not only did he not hear it, the others didn't hear it as well. I didn't hear it as well. Jun Mingchen spoke. Before this, the deep flame immortal king walked down and told my senior brother that some things are already destined and will never change. Could it be that no matter how senior brother performs, he would definitely be eliminated? If this is the case, it's fine even if we don't enter the Dongshengshan gate. The three of us will naturally return to the mountain to cultivate. You guys? The deep flame immortal king stared at these people as his countenance turned cold. Everyone had personally witnessed the grudge between him and Qin Wenyin. Qin Wenyin even killed his disciple in front of him, challenging his prestige and humiliating him. Now that he spoke out to convict Qin Wenyin, it was clear that he was using his position to avenge his personal grudges. Deep Flame Immortal King, forget it. At this moment, Dong Shengting spoke. The Deep Flame Immortal King stared at Dong Shengting only to see the gleaming light in his eyes. He had no way to tell what Dong Shengting was thinking. The Deep Flame Immortal King understood that Dong Shengting, the son of the Immortal Emperor, would naturally handle this matter well. Snorting coldly, the Deep Flame Immortal King coldly swept his gaze over and didn't say anything more. Qin Wendian returned to his seat. Right now, out of the 20 chosen, only 19 remained. 8 of them had already fought, leaving 12 who had yet to fight. Zi Qingxian of the Cloud Prefecture, it's your turn. Dong Shengting's gaze was very calm. He glanced at Zi Qingxian but his heart was filled with coldness. Seems like Qin Wenyin must have had a miraculous encounter in the immortal realms and became the disciple of a powerful master. This was why he was able to grow to such a level. Princess Liuli was right next to him. Naturally, he would not deliberately act against Qin Wenyin. Otherwise, if Princess Qing knew about this, she would be able to guess a lot of things. Zi Qingshuan's silhouette walked up the platform. Qin Wenyin and Jun Mingchen both had a high chance of passing. She definitely had to obtain a victory as well. There was not a single weakling among the experts in front of her. The person she was most confident in defeating was naturally Su Feng, who was at the same cultivation level as her. After all, they had fought before. To her, this battle was very simple. I challenge Su Feng. Zi Qingxian turned her gaze onto Su Feng, her words causing Su Feng's expression to turn heavy. It was impossible for stellar martial cultivators to change too much in such a short period of time. The strong would be strong, the weak would be weak. Su Feng knew that even if they fought again, he would still lose to Zi Qingxian. I concede. Su Feng didn't step onto the platform. He still wanted to leave his hope to himself. He would go all out and try his best to break through the top 10. It was simply too difficult to enter the top 10. Right now, there were no weaklings at all. Gu Zhantian, fight me. At this moment, Dong Shengting called out. Gu Zhantian was finally his turn. Before this, he had already lost a round. If he lost again, he would be directly eliminated. Would it be a civil war in the Cloud Prefecture? The gazes of the spectators turned to Gu Zhantian. Before this, Jun Mingchen's words provoked and humiliated Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian promised that he would fight a life-and-death battle against Jun Mingchen. But after that, Jun Mingchen's performance was incomparably domineering, defeating Xia Jiufeng. Would Gu Zhantian still keep his promise and challenge Jun Mingchen? This battle, to Gu Zhantian, was extremely difficult to choose. He had already lost once, he couldn't afford to lose again. If he lost again, his name would no longer be in the top 10. On the platform, Gu Zhantian stood there as his eyes flickered with uncertainty. It was as though he couldn't make up his mind. Evidently, Gu Zhantian was hesitating. His conviction, his self-confidence, was no longer as strong as before. He didn't have the certainty of victory. Regardless of Jun Mingchen or Qin Wenyin, he didn't have the confidence to win. If not, he wouldn't hesitate to directly challenge one of them. Qin Wenyin and Jun Mingchen stared at Gu Zhantian as an intense battle intent flickered in their eyes. In fact, Jun Mingchen directly lifted his pinky finger, pointing it downwards, as though he was looking down on Gu Zhantian. Gu Zhantian clenched his fists tightly as his battle intent towered up into the sky. He was the #1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture. How could he lose his will to battle? Gu Zhantian, even if he was defeated, he wouldn't cower from battle. This battle was for the sake of victory, and also for the sake of dignity. In his eyes, a sharp gleam of light erupted forth. Gu Zhantian stared at the Cloud Prefecture's camp and pointed his finger at Qin Wenyan instead of Jun Mingchen. Before this, you have always wanted to fight against me. Let me grant you your wish. Qin Wenyan, scram the hell out. Gu Zhantian roared in rage, challenging Qin Wenyan to a battle. Jun Mingchen's eyes flickered with a cold smile as he stared at Qin Wenyan beside him. Gu Zhantian was destined to be defeated. The number 1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture wouldn't even be able to enter the top 10. Qin Wenyan stood up and walked towards the platform once more. He was the victor earlier, hence the people behind him could still challenge him. A life and death battle, how about it? Qin Wenyan spoke. Earlier when Jun Mingchen was poisoned, this Gu Zhantian didn't forget to curse him. His killing intent towards Gu Zhantian was extremely strong, not any weaker compared to Blackpeak's. A bright light flashed in the air, suppressing the cultivation bases of both of them. Gu Zhantian's countenance flickered as he stared fixedly at Qin Wenyan. However, he didn't reply. Although he had the confidence to challenge Qin Wenyan, he didn't have the courage to do so in a life-and-death battle. Especially when Qin Wenyan just killed the disciple of the Deep Flame Immortal King, Blackpeak. His constellation, astral souls, and chaotic aura gushed forth in an instant. Gu Zhantian didn't reply to Qin Wenyan's words, he could only fight. Qin Wenyan unleashed his battle art as rumbling sounds rang out from his body. 3 layers of battle arts were unleashed consecutively as a blood-colored light flashed. Runic inscriptions flowed on his body, as though he was clad in a blood-colored fiend god battle armor, unexcelled in the world. Back then when Gu Zhantian fought against senior brother Qin, he was 3 levels higher than him, yet he was still so arrogant. How ridiculous! If they were at the same level, senior brother Qin would be able to easily destroy him. Jun Mingchen impolitely spoke. His gaze swept through the geniuses and major powers of the Cloud Prefecture. All of them had a prejudice against his senior brother Qin Wenyan, but the rise of his senior brother Qin Wenyan wasn't something anyone could obstruct. Gu Zhantian manifested 3 heads and 6 arms, exuding an incomparably chaotic aura as he blasted out towards Qin Wenyan. Qin Wentian's suppression constellation radiated boundless violet gold light, shattering the space as rumbling sounds rang out. Gu Zhantian blasted out a flood dragon and a Kirin, causing the heavens and earth to tremble violently. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as numerous phantoms appeared at the same time. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wenyan. These phantoms grabbed out with their palms, as though they could pluck the stars from the constellation, shattering all energy. Gu Zhantian roared, his entire body was in a state of frenzy, as though a flood dragon was protecting him. Every strike he unleashed caused numerous demonic phantoms to appear, frenziedly clashing against Qin Wentian's attacks. Only to see at this moment, Qin Wenyan once again manifested a million phantoms. This time around, the phantoms actually left behind a trail of afterimages as they spread out in all directions, wanting to engulf Gu Zhantian within. It was as though there were millions of Qin Wenyan clones within. How terrifying was the attack power of this innate technique? Can he withstand the exhaustion of such an innate technique? The Immortal King stared at Qin Wenyan. For such an innate technique, it was impossible for him to condense so many phantoms. It should be that Qin Wenyan created millions of phantoms in a short instant, and each of the phantoms could unleash the same attack as the true body. However, the exhaustion of energy was already extremely shocking. Staring at the millions of phantoms that appeared in that short instant, Gu Zhantian's heart trembled. His conviction to battle was being nibbled away as he recalled the death of Blackpeak. Each of the phantoms of Qin Wenyan was shining with a boundless battle halo. It was simply too terrifying. Just a single one of them was already so hard to deal with. Even the countless eyes of Qin Wenyan gave off a stifling pressure. I concede. Gu Zhantian roared. It was as though he had exhausted all his energy. Qin Wenyan, who was preparing to attack, suddenly started. After that, the phantoms all vanished as though they had fused back into one. The battle light radiating from Qin Wenyan was still as bright as ever. He stared at Gu Zhantian and didn't say anything. He merely lifted his foot and walked towards the direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp. But to Gu Zhantian, wasn't this a form of humiliation? He and Qin Wenyan had always been anticipating this battle. But now that the battle had arrived, it ended in such a manner. He, Gu Zhantian, was eliminated. The first in the Cloud State stopped at the top 20. Arg. Gu Zhantian is eliminated. He's not allowed to challenge him again. Dong Shengting calmly spoke. The hearts of many couldn't calm down. The number 1 genius of the Cloud Prefecture was actually eliminated in such a manner? As for that 27th ranked young man from the Cloud Prefecture, he killed Black Peak in the first battle and eliminated Gu Zhantian in the second battle. Who was the true number 1 heaven's favorite in Yunzhou? No matter what, Gu Zhantian wouldn't have the qualifications. After this battle, Qin Wenyan could already lock in the top 10. The top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianqian, will fight. Dong Shengting spoke. Yi Qianqian walked up the battle platform. Qian Province's number 1 challenged Mo Province's number 1 prodigy, Yan Zimo. In the end, Yi Qianqian was the victor. Next, the number 1 of Li Prefecture, Song Ao, challenged the number 1 of Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan. In the end, Song Ao Li won. Blazing Sun Province's number 1, Dugu Shishan, challenged Yu Province's number 1, Gu Hong. In the end, Dugu Shishan was the victor. The more famous geniuses of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were using their strength to defend their honor. After all, in many of the 13 prefectures, only a single genius was still standing on the battle platform. Chapter 868. After Dugu Shishan's battle ended, it was now Mo Wen's turn. The number 1 genius of the Supreme Moon Prefecture, Mo Wen, had already lost a battle before. However, her opponent was Gusu Tianqi. Her defeat was within reason. No one would dare to say they wouldn't lose when facing Gusu Tianqi. At that time, Mo Wen had already displayed an extremely tyrannical strength. Also, she automatically gave up at the end. Nobody had seen how strong her combat prowess was. Let's hope she can win. Jun Mingchen spoke in a low voice when he saw Mo Wen stepping up. This Snow-White maiden was also from the Heavenly Talisman realm, causing him to feel a sense of closeness to her. He naturally hoped that Mo Wen would win. If Mo Wen was defeated, she would be eliminated. And now, the number of people Mo Wen could challenge was already very few. For those who were defeated, she couldn't challenge them. For those who won, each and every one of them was extremely terrifying. Western Desert Prefecture, Sarlis. Mo Wen stated the opponent she wanted to challenge. Sarlis was the 3rd ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture and he hadn't fought before this. If she challenged him, her chances of winning would be higher. Mo Wen also wanted to play it safe. Sarlis was none other than the monk Qin Wenyan met before at the Eastern Sage Cliff. His robes were tattered and tattered as he walked up the platform. His bronze-colored skin gave off a sense of immense strength, masculine and ferocious. His gaze was extremely terrifying, giving off a sense of supremacy. He chanted the name of Buddha, and golden light shone between heaven and earth. A terrible golden ancient Buddha appeared in the void, and endless golden light shrouded Wu Bei's body. He slapped his palm, and there seemed to be a terrible golden Buddha palm print attacking. Mo Wen released her Frost Monarch Chi as the shadow of the Frost Monarch appeared in the air. Wielding an ice spear, she froze the entire space. With a wave of her hand, a screen of frost appeared as the golden palm imprint blasted over. At this moment, a terrifying frost chi gushed forth, unceasingly corroding this entire space, causing the entire space to be covered in frost. Wu Bei's constellation seemed as though it was about to be frozen. The terrifying frost chi contained an extreme coldness. Wu Bei's expression did not change. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the air. In an instant, boundless runic light fluttered like the Dharma. Boundless runic light flashed in the sky. Above the sky, figures of ascetic Buddhas appeared. They sat cross-legged, closed their eyes and chanted sutras. Terrifying Buddha light appeared between heaven and earth, enveloping the sky. It actually turned into a golden body that enveloped Wu Bei. If one looked from afar, one could vaguely see the shadow of an incomparably huge golden ancient Buddha. The power of the Frost Monarch's ice encroached over, sealing the entire golden light screen in ice. However, the frigid air couldn't penetrate through. This defense could be said to be terrifying. In this year's immortal banquet, only the Western Desert Prefecture can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Cloud Prefecture. The Cloud Prefecture has 3 senior and junior brothers, while the Western Desert Prefecture has 3 people from different powers. The hearts of the spectators mused. The 2 of them engaged in a frenzied battle. Emowen transformed into a snow goddess, her long hair transformed into ice crystals, flawless and flawless. She was like a spirit of snow, unceasingly attacking. Wu Bei unceasingly spat out Buddhic light. That Buddhas in the air could even unleash attacks. Numerous ancient bells materialized in the air. This was actually the same as the innate technique Qin Wenyan had used before. It was something he cultivated in the eastern Sage Cliff. This Wu Bei's defense is truly strong, his attacks are powerful as well. The spectators felt more and more shocked as they watched on. However, Emowen's strength was also gradually erupting forth as her body grew colder and colder. At the end of the battle, she wielded an ice spear and transformed into a true goddess. With a single strike, the heavens and earth froze. The boundless golden light screen also froze before shattering. Nobody could block it. Emowen's strength caused the spectators to be stunned. When she fought against Gusu Tianqi, she didn't even use her full strength before she admitted defeat. Now, she already couldn't afford to lose and fought with all her might. Her Frost Monarch physique erupted forth and finally defeated Wu Bei, obtaining victory. Next, it should have been Blackpeak's turn to fight. However, Blackpeak had already been killed by Qin Wenyan, so he naturally didn't have to fight. And so, it was Xia Jiufeng's turn. Xia Jiufeng, who had lost to Jun Mingchen, had already lost a battle, so he had the initiative. It was also his turn to choose his opponent. He was the same as Emowen. He could not afford to lose and had to fight for a victory with all his might. However, he could not challenge those who had lost. He could only challenge the victors and those who had not fought before. For the previous victors, any one of them had already displayed their overwhelming combat prowess. It would be extremely difficult to fight against them. Xia Jiufeng stood on the platform and hesitated. He then turned his gaze to those who hadn't participated yet. It seemed like there were only 3 people left who had yet to participate in the battle. The second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta, the disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king, Hua Taishu, the disciple of the undefeatable devil king, Ruthless. To Xia Jiufeng, this was clearly an extremely difficult choice. At this point, all of his opponents were extremely terrifying. Now, he had to defeat one of them in order to avoid the fate of being eliminated. I challenged Qin Ta of the Western Desert Prefecture. Xia Jiufeng spoke. In the end, he locked onto the 3 who hadn't fought before. Hua Taishu was extremely famous. Ruthless was the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. That Devil King was simply too terrifying. It was still better to choose Qin Ta from the Western Desert Prefecture as he would have a higher chance of winning. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture, Xia Jiufeng, and the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture, Qin Ta. They stood on the platform, facing each other. Was the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture or the second ranker of the Western Desert Prefecture? Before this, the second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture had already been defeated by the second ranker of the Cloud Prefecture, Jun Mingchen. Xia Jiufeng could no longer afford to lose. The barbarian king's shadow flashed in the sky as the space changed. A constellation appeared, manifesting a tyrannical demonic beast that was incomparably violent. The moment Xia Jiufeng appeared, it was as though he was going to use his strongest combat prowess. Qin Ta's physique was gigantic, akin to a giant. He was a terrifying heaven chosen of the Western Desert Prefecture, the heavenly god race. People from the heavenly god race were born with boundless divine strength. They were like heavenly gods, able to move mountains and overturn seas. Their offense and defense were once the strongest in the entire Western Desert Prefecture. Upon seeing Xia Jiufeng going berserk, Qin Ta roared in rage. His entire body shimmered with the light of a heavenly god as cracking sounds rang out from his body. His body expanded to a height of 10 meters, exuding a majestic aura. Behind him, a gigantic silhouette of 1,000 meters tall appeared, exuding boundless might. The people of the heavenly god race are born with the ability to sense unique constellations. These constellations are named heavenly deity constellations by them, and they are able to condense their heavenly deity astral souls. After that, the constellations they comprehend are all based on the heavenly deity constellations. This is the innate advantage those powerful races with ancient inheritances have. An immortal king spoke, his words causing Qin Wendian to feel shock in his heart. The immortal realms were many times more fascinating compared to particle worlds. For some ancient races, their talent wasn't only shown in their bloodlines, they were also born with an innate sensitivity to certain constellations. This was definitely an innate advantage. Such races were simply too terrifying. Their inheritances wouldn't decline from generation to generation. Once a supreme character appeared, they would be able to lead this race to new heights. I'm afraid Xia Jiufeng is going to be in danger in this battle. Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. This Qin Ta's strength was already extremely powerful, at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, very close to becoming an immortal. Although there was still a huge barrier separating them, his cultivation base was higher and his comprehension of the martial path was also deeper than Xia Jiufeng's. Even if his cultivation base was suppressed, he would still have an advantage in this aspect. In addition to the fact that he was from the heavenly god race, the possibility of Xia Jiufeng being defeated was simply too great. Xia Jiufeng naturally could also sense Qin Ta's strength. His countenance turned solemn as he roared in rage, causing the space around him to tremble as tens of thousands of savage beasts soared through the air, wanting to destroy everything. Qin Ta's countenance was calm. He stomped on the ground and blasted out with both his palms, penetrating through the void. The spectators only saw a pair of heavenly deities' fists sweeping across the heavens and earth, causing all the savage beasts in the surroundings to explode. Powerful, this level of attack power, he must be a supremely terrifying existence. Qin Ta, if he didn't suppress his cultivation base, he would be at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon with an extremely deep comprehension. The crowd sighed in admiration. All of them felt that Xia Jiufeng would be defeated again in this battle. Reality was just like what they predicted. Although Xia Jiufeng did his best and unleashed incomparably violent attacks, he was still defeated in the end. He was directly blasted off the platform by Qin Ta, flying through the air as he was heavily injured. The second ranker of the Eastern Prefecture was eliminated, unable to enter the top 20. After this battle ended, Black Peak died, Gu Zhantian was eliminated, and Xia Jiufeng was eliminated. None of these three were weaklings, all of them were supremely powerful existences. However, all of them were eliminated. This was the combat at the later stages of the Immortal Banquet. It was extremely brutal. No matter how strong a genius was, they would still lose consecutively, just like Gu Zhantian and Xia Jiufeng. After Xia Jiufeng, it was time for Qin Ta to fight again. Earlier he had just defeated Xia Jiufeng, there was no meaning for him to fight again. Next battle, Sarlis. Dong Xingting spoke. Sarlis' battle with Mo Wen belonged to the loser category. Next, it was his turn and since he had the initiative, he could choose his opponent. Sarlis was also under immense pressure. Right now, only Hua Taishu and Ruthless hadn't fought a single battle yet. Other than the two of them, he could only choose those who were the victors. Ruthless. Sarlis stared at the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. He challenged Ruthless. Ruthless exuded a terrifying baleful aura, akin to a baleful god. When he walked up to Gu Zhantian, devil chi gushed forth from him, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. Immortals, devils, immortals, devils. However, devils were much rarer compared to immortals. The path of the Devil Dao was extremely tough. One had to be extremely ruthless to themselves before they could cultivate it. For powerful devils, they could even achieve a state where they had no desires and only focused on pursuing the path of the devil. A monk against a devil cultivator. Is this a battle between Buddhas and devils? The spectators saw Buddhic light radiating from Sorrowless, while devil chi gushed forth from Ruthless. He wielded a long spear in his hands that was even longer compared to ordinary spears. It was formed from devil energy and shone with a terrifying blood-colored light. Ruthless stepped out, moving towards Sorrowless. Every step he took caused devil might to surge up into the sky. The devil spear in his hands seemed to be able to penetrate through everything, containing a heaven-shaking might. The disciple of the undefeatable Devil King, Ruthless, is extremely mysterious and rarely fights. It's all thanks to His Highness Dongxing Ting that we can see him participating in this immortal banquet. An immortal king laughed as he stared at the battle platform. How strong would a disciple taught by the undefeatable Devil King be? Would he be able to slaughter his way out in this bloody path? Chapter 869. The baleful chi radiating from Ruthless was extremely heavy. Devil chi churned wildly, as though he was clad in a devil armor. He was like a devil king, extremely terrifying. His body trembled as the platform rumbled. The long spear in his hand directly pierced out like a black bolt of lightning. Although there was still some distance between him and Sorrowless, the crowd could see that his black devil spear directly penetrated through the void, bringing with it a fearsome might as it blasted towards Sorrowless. There was no violent turbulence. It was like there was only this spear in this world, and all the devil energy was concentrated within it. Wu Bei blasted out a huge golden palm print. It was as fast as lightning and instantly collided with the spear. There was a loud explosion. The golden palm print was instantly shattered when the spear touched it. The spear continued to pierce through and pierced Wu Bei's body. The attacks of devil cultivators are naturally stronger, but their cultivation is also more difficult. Those who cultivate the devil path might fall into the devil path at any moment, consigning them to eternal damnation, becoming a tool of slaughter, losing their rationality and even exploding themselves to death. The number of devil cultivators is extremely few. Everyone stared at the heavy expression on Sorrowless' face. With a roar of rage, numerous Buddhas appeared, blasting out palm imprints at the same time, shattering the devil spear. However, a towering devilish light enveloped Ruthless. His body expanded explosively as he transformed into a devil. Astral light flashed as an ancient devil manifested in the air. Ruthless brandished a heaven-shaking long spear in his hand as millions of long spears whistled through the air in rage. Ruthless stepped out, exuding boundless might. His countenance was cold as he silently stabbed out with his spear. However, at the instant this spear pierced out, boundless devil light converged together, transforming into a towering devil spear. At the same time, it was as though there were millions of devil spears exploding towards Sorrowless at the same time. Sorrowless frenziedly chanted Buddhic chants as boundless light gathered around him. His golden Buddha body had an unparalleled defense, but Ruthless struck out 10 times in a row. The devil trampled on his golden body as the long spear shook the heavens, shattering the golden Buddha body. Violence, this is the unique characteristic of devil cultivators. They are most proficient in violent attacks, relentless until you are defeated. Someone praised. As expected of the disciple of the undefeatable Devil King. How powerful! His Majesty Dongxing Ting must have his reasons for choosing Ruthless and Hua Taishu. The two of them are in the second level of the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures. It's too dangerous. To the geniuses from the 13 prefectures, it's an extremely huge test. It's extremely difficult to break through the two of them. An immortal king laughed. Dongxing Ting's eyes gleamed brightly. The people he chose were all 5th-level ascendants and their reputations were all extremely resounding within the immortal realms. In the end, Sorrowless was defeated again. The powerful Western Desert State Sadu lost 2 rounds and was eliminated. It wasn't that he wasn't strong. It was just that the current Gu Zhantian no longer had any weaklings. His 2 opponents were both extremely terrifying. Yan Zimo of the Qian Prefecture, it's your turn. You still have one more chance. Dong Shengting spoke when he saw the 2 of them walking down the platform. Yan Zimo had already lost once before. He had lost to Qian Province's number 1, Yi Qianchen, who was extremely famous. Hence, when it was his turn this time, he had the initiative. Before this, others couldn't challenge him. But now, this was also his last chance. He could only challenge the victors and not the losers. Or perhaps, he could only challenge those who didn't have enough people after a single round. There was only one such person left, Hua Taishu. The pressure on Yan Zimo grew even greater. He truly didn't know who else he could challenge. Right now, the victors were Gusu Tianqi, Feather King, Jun Mingchen, Qin Wenin, Zi Qingxian Yi Qianchen, Song Ao, Dugashishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless and Imowen. 11 experts, he had to win against one of them. After all, not all 11 of them would be able to pass. Drawing a deep breath, Yan Zimo spoke, Zi Qingxian. Yan Zimo chose to challenge Zi Qingxian of the Cloud Prefecture. Zi Qingxian stepped onto the platform as a divine falcon glow radiated forth. At the instant the battle started, countless divine falcons soared through the air, whistling through the air in a frenzy. Zi Qingxian felt some anger in her heart. This Yan Zimo chose her out of over 10 participants? Did he think she was weak? Hence, she directly unleashed a powerful attack that engulfed Yan Zimo completely. In the end, Yan Zimo was defeated and was eliminated. After that, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, stepped up. Ba Shan was defeated by Tsang Ao earlier and this was also his last chance. He had to win no matter what. He chose Qin Ta of the Heavenly God race. Regretfully, he had no way to defeat an expert from the Heavenly God race. His cultivation techniques were similar to Qin Ta's. Both his attacks and defenses were extremely powerful, akin to an ancient mountain. However, Qin Ta was like a heavenly god, like a divinity descending to the mortal world, suppressing and defeating him. After the top ranker of the Mo Prefecture, Yan Zimo, was eliminated, the top ranker of the Rock Prefecture, Ba Shan, was eliminated as well. How cruel was this battle? After that, the top ranker of the Yu Prefecture, Gu Hongzi, stepped up. In the previous battle, he was defeated by the top ranker of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Du Shishan. For this battle, when Gu Hongzi swept his gaze over those who could challenge him, he actually no longer had the confidence to win. 2 of the top rankers of the Blazing Sun Prefecture were eliminated one after another. Gu Hongzi chose the top ranker of the Qian Prefecture, Yi Qianchen. Yi Qianchen was naturally unhappy. After he stepped onto the platform, sword chi gushed forth as his silhouette flickered. Terrifying sword techniques were unleashed, enveloping Gu Hongzi within the abyss of death. Gu Hongzi admitted defeat. The 3 top rankers of the Thunder Prefecture were all defeated and eliminated. Next, it was the top ranker of the Thunder Prefecture, Su Feng. At this moment, one could very well imagine the pressure on Su Feng. Although he had entered the top 20, he still felt some despair. But no matter what, he still had to fight. I choose Hua Taishu. Su Feng stood on the platform as he spoke. It seemed like he had no other choice. Before this, Zi Qingxian challenged him and he admitted defeat. After that, the other victors were all exceedingly powerful. Only the mysterious Hua Taishu hadn't fought yet. He could only rely on Hua Taishu to break through. Hua Taishu. Qin Wenin and the others turned their gazes over, staring at the lanky silhouette walking down the platform. He was as handsome as ever, like an elegant young noble, untainted by even a speck of dust. It was just that the current Hua Taishu was even more extraordinary than before. His eyes were clear and deep, so deep that one couldn't even see the bottom of it. He who didn't exude any aura actually gave off an unfathomable feeling, unfathomable. Hua Taishu's body floated down onto the platform as though he was weightless. His eyes were calm as he stared at Su Feng. Such a feeling caused Su Feng to feel a sense of unease. Hua Taishu's aura was too faintly discernible, so faintly discernible that it felt surreal, so faintly discernible that it felt like an illusion. Boom! Su Feng instantly gushed forth with his strongest aura. Stepping out, his speed was like a bolt of lightning as a screen of light enveloped him. His silhouette directly vanished from sight as the terrifying 10,000 mammoths slashed down. However, in the next instant, Su Feng discovered that the surroundings were filled with Hua Taishu's shadows. He didn't know which one he should kill. Slash! Su Feng roared in rage. The 10,000 manifestations slashed down as Hua Taishu's shadows were destroyed one after another. However, very swiftly, Hua Taishu's silhouette appeared, calmly staring at him. His eyes were so clear, yet there was no way to see through him. Su Feng roared in rage, frenziedly attacking, killing endlessly. However, it was useless. The aura of all the shadows were the same, there were no flaws at all. He killed over 10,000 of them, yet Hua Taishu still stood there, staring at him. Arg! Su Feng felt as though he was on the verge of collapse. Boundless spatial energy enveloped him as he sped about on the platform, moving at an astonishing speed. Chi-chi! Hua Taishu's silhouettes exploded one after another. Who was the real one, and who was the illusory one? The spectators all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this. Their gazes all turned to the myriad incarnations' immortal king, only to see a faint smile on her face, as though she was very satisfied with the shock of the spectators. Hua Taishu has truly obtained the true inheritance of the myriad incarnations' immortal king. This illusionary technique is simply capable of causing one's soul to crumble. Just by standing there, Hua Taishu is already sufficient to cause Su Feng's soul to crumble. The spectators sighed in their hearts. The battle on the platform caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Hua Taishu simply stood there, yet Su Feng didn't attack him. Instead, he was frenziedly attacking the illusory space around him. Evidently, what they saw was different from what Su Feng saw. Su Feng had already fallen into an illusionary realm the moment Hua Taishu stepped onto the platform. His eyes are an illusionary realm. The spectators sighed. Being able to walk out from the world of reincarnation, his eyes alone are sufficient to suppress many geniuses. Su Feng frenziedly attacked. He unleashed his strongest attack, instantly destroying the countless illusionary silhouettes. However, he was destined to be defeated. Because Hua Taishu just stood there, yet he didn't attack. Finally, Su Feng's soul crumbled. With a howl of rage, he automatically gave up. Only now did he see that everything returned to normal. Hua Taishu was still standing on the platform, not releasing any aura at all. His calm eyes quietly stared at Su Feng's silhouette. Su Feng groaned in misery as he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His countenance turned pale as though he was on the verge of collapse. At this instant, he became incomparably dispirited. So this is the case, so this is the case. Su Feng walked down the platform in a desolate manner. In this immortal banquet he was truly a failure, a complete and utter failure. What a pity, let's hope his state of heart won't be affected. The spectators stared at Su Feng. In this immortal banquet, Su Feng was truly pitiful. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, it was just that the opponents he chose were all extremely powerful. How could he not be affected? Let's hope that Su Feng would be able to endure this. In the future, his state of heart would surely be even more outstanding. An immortal king spoke in a low voice, unwilling to see a genius fall. Hua Taishu walked down the platform. Next, it should have been him and ruthless battle. But before this, there were people who challenged them and they were all the victors. Hence now, the 12 victors have already been determined. 8 geniuses were eliminated. These 12 were Gusu Tianqi, Feather King, Jun Mingchen, Qin Wenin, Zi Qingxian Yiqianchen, Song Ao, Dugashishan, Qin Ta, Ruthless, Mo and Hua Taishu. All of them had victory records. Right now, it was simply too difficult to choose 2 out of these 12. Every single one of them was an outstanding sky-prided son of heaven. Chapter 870. For the remaining 12 participants, how should they eliminate 2 of them? Among the 12 participants, 11 of them had yet to be defeated. Only one was an exception, Mo1. However, the reason for Mo1's defeat was because the one who challenged him was none other than Gusu Tianqi. If she was eliminated because of such a defeat, it would be extremely unfair. As for the others, who would dare to say that they wouldn't be defeated if they fought against Gusu Tianqi? What choice should they make next was simply too difficult. The gazes of everyone turned to Dong Xingting. At this moment, Dong Xingting's eyes flickered as he stared at the people in the surroundings. What do Princess Lioli and the other elders think? The simplest method is to let all 12 of them fight on the platform together and suppress their cultivation bases to the same level. Let them decide for themselves who will be eliminated. Princess Lioli's beautiful eyes gleamed with a strange light as she spoke. Good idea. What do the elders think? Dong Xingting laughed. His Highness will decide. An immortal king spoke. Since Princess Lioli and His Highness agree, we naturally have no objections. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. Dong Xingting smiled. The 12 geniuses shall all fight on the platform together. You guys can decide for yourselves who will be eliminated. However, there's one point: no groups of 2 or more people are allowed to gang up on a single person. Naturally, if you guys have the patience to quietly wait on the platform, we will accompany you guys. The reason why Dong Xingting forbade people from ganging up on a single person was because he wanted to prevent people from forming an alliance. If they all decided to eliminate Gusu Tianqi first, wouldn't this rule be too terrible? In addition, Qin Wendian and his 2 fellow disciples weren't eliminated at all. The 3 of them were all Empyreans, and if they ganged up on Gusu Tianqi, there was no way anyone would be able to contend against them. After all, this was a battle where cultivation bases were suppressed. As the sound of Dong Xingting's voice faded, the 12 geniuses all stood up and walked up the platform, standing in 12 different locations. Qin Wenyan, Jun Mingchen, and Zi Qingxian stood together. Although there was some distance between them, one could clearly see that their relationship was extraordinary. As for the other participants, they all stood alone. On the platform, the eyes of the 12 geniuses shone brightly as they stared at the remaining geniuses. It was as though they were contemplating who among the 12 of them should be eliminated. Gusu Tianqi closed his eyes in meditation, as though this battle had nothing to do with him. King Yu's eyes were filled with arrogance as he swept his gaze over everyone. You guys can decide. As he spoke, he closed his eyes, full of arrogance. Evil chi flowed around Ruthless' body. His eyes were frightening as he stood there like a statue. Hua Taishu, who was beside him, was the exact opposite. His slender silhouette exuded a calm aura, as though he didn't exude any aura at all. However, after the earlier battle, no one dared to underestimate this personal disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king. What a difficult choice. Jun Mingchen mumbled, his eyes sweeping across the crowd before he replied, "Forget it, what does it have to do with me?" After saying that, he couldn't be bothered to care anymore. He just sat on the ground as if it had nothing to do with him. Qin Wenyan stood there quietly with his hands clasped behind his back. A breeze blew past and lifted his clothes. His expression was so indifferent. The 12 of them didn't dare to act recklessly. Dong Xingting and the other immortal kings weren't in a hurry either. Since these geniuses were so patient, they could wait patiently. When these people grew impatient, there would naturally be someone who would step out to challenge the others. Now, let's see who has the best endurance. On the battle platform, silence reigned. During the immortal banquet, everyone was chatting happily. This was especially so for those immortal kings. They acted as though nothing had happened. At their level, let alone a day or two, even a year or 2 years would pass by in the blink of an eye. Sometimes, when they were in closed-door seclusion, they would spend hundreds or even thousands of years. How strong their patience was, it wasn't something a little fellow at the celestial phenomenon realm could imagine. On the contrary, for an immortal banquet like the Dong Shengshan Gate, it was extremely rare for characters at the same level to gather together. This would only happen once every 100 years. To them, this was a rare opportunity to rest and chat, It was an extremely relaxing thing. Myriad incarnations, let's see how far this disciple of yours can go. If he can enter the top 3, would you be willing to let him enter the tutelage of His Majesty? The undying immortal king joked with the myriad incarnations immortal king. Of course not. The myriad incarnations immortal king smiled. You should know that I don't accept many disciples. His Majesty has students from all over the immortal realms, and experts are as common as the clouds. He wouldn't lack a disciple of mine, right? That's the truth. This disciple of yours seems extraordinary. He would definitely become someone great in the future. The undying immortal king laughed. The myriad incarnations immortal king didn't mind. This old man would always praise everyone. Who knows which words he said were true and which were false? Princess, which 2 of the 12 do you think will be eliminated? Dong Shengting, who was at the host's seat, was chatting with Princess Lioli. This was a rare opportunity. He naturally wanted to improve his relationship with Princess Lioli and chat with her from time to time. He didn't want Princess Lioli to feel that she was being neglected here. Qin Wenyan, Jun Mingchen, Dugushishan, Song Ao and Qin Ta. From their auras and innate techniques, the personalities of these few should be more explosive. However, this Qin Wenyan is also reserved. He wouldn't act recklessly. As for the other 4, they might be the first to lose their patience. However, this Jun Mingchen seems to be more obedient to his senior brother Qin Wenyan. Since his senior brothers and sisters are different, it's possible that he wouldn't act. In that case, the ones most likely to act would be Dugushishan, Song Ao and Qin Ta. Princess Lioli spoke. Oh, I know Princess has the ability to read people, but the attacks of Feather King and Ruthless are also extremely violent. Even Gusu Tianqi is the same. Why doesn't Princess guess that they would act? Dong Shengting curiously asked. The experts of the winged devil race are extremely patient. It's impossible for Feather King to act. Ruthless is a devil cultivator and his personality is unimaginably tough. As for Gusu Tianqi, there's no need for him to act. Nobody would look for him. Princess Lioli continued. As for Dugushishan, Song Ao and Qin Ta, the moment they act, the ones most likely to be eliminated would be none other than them. Is that so? The 3 of them are all extremely powerful. Dong Shengting smiled. Let's wait and see. The atmosphere on the battle platform was still as quiet as ever. The patience of everyone was exceptionally good. The immortal banquet continued. The sounds of laughter and chatting could be heard. Those experts who were already eliminated were all quietly staring at the battle platform. They too wanted to know. Who would be able to become one of the top 10? Who would be able to become one of the top 3 rankers? It seemed that any one of them had a chance. They truly had no way to pick out the weakest. Being able to reach this step, those who had experienced true trials and tribulations had all been through. After a long time, Jun Mingchen was indeed feeling somewhat restless. His eyes opened a few times, but just like what Princess Lioli had predicted, Jun Mingchen also retracted his impatience when he saw how quiet Qin Wenyan and Zi Qingxian were. It was as though the only people here who could control him were only Qin Wenyan and Zi Qingxian. If you want to move, just move. Why must you make things difficult for yourself? Finally, someone spoke. The person who spoke was none other than Song Ao. He stared at Jun Mingchen as he spoke. Jun Mingchen's eyes flickered. He stared at Song Ao and replied, "What does this have to do with you?" Song Ao's countenance gleamed with sharpness as a cold light flickered in his eyes. He spoke in arrogance. "Among the 3 of you, it's time for one of you to scram the hell out. It's starting." The countenances of the spectators were all startled. Dong Shengting glanced at Princess Lioli, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he felt a little shocked in his heart. Just like what Princess has said, Princess' eyes are as sharp as torches. I'm impressed. Dong Shengting praised. Jun Mingchen stood up. His personality was originally very impulsive and he was doing his best to control himself. How could he withstand Song Ao's words? When he stepped out, a king armor materialized around him as though a supreme king had appeared. Every step he took was like a sovereign descending from the heavens. In that case, I will make you scram. Jun Mingchen arrogantly spoke. Song Ao also stepped out. His aura was incomparably tyrannical as he exuded boundless strength. In my opinion, among the three of you, there should be more than one of you who should scram. Song Ao coldly spoke. The king aura exuding from Jun Mingchen grew more and more terrifying. A king's silhouette appeared behind him as boundless energy congregated within him, radiating a blinding light. I will make you scram with a single strike. Jun Mingchen was incomparably arrogant. The two of them walked towards each other as terrifying rumbling sounds echoed out as a violent hurricane manifested. Arrogant! Song Ao roared in rage as a surge of extreme energy gushed forth from him. Scram! Jun Mingchen roared in rage. The king shadow behind him radiated boundless light as a supreme might bore down on Jun Mingchen. With a single strike, the heavens and earth trembled as the void trembled. Die! Song Ao also roared. He punched out, wanting to lacerate everything, causing the heavens and earth to crumble apart. A beam of golden light tore through everything. It was actually able to break apart Jun Mingchen's attack. Their fists collided against each other. Song Ao's countenance was incomparably arrogant. This punch contained his ultimate strength, causing golden cracks to appear in the air. This was a power that could tear apart all attacks. However, when Jun Mingchen's fist blasted over, Song Ao felt an ancient might pressing down on him. That fist seemed to contain the power of kings, capable of shattering the heavens and earth. When he stared at Jun Mingchen, it was as though he was looking at a supreme king peering down at the heavens and earth. Boom! The attacks of the two of them collided as a resplendent halo of light radiated outwards in all directions, wanting to shatter the void. The experts around Gu Zhantian all gathered their attacks to defend against the aftershocks of the halo. The might of the halo seemed to be able to tear the bodies of people apart, after which, the crowd only saw Song Ao's body being flung through the air. With a thunderous boom, his body slammed into the ground. One of his arms was completely destroyed as he screamed in agony. Terror could be seen in his eyes, as well as intense regret. Why did he choose to challenge Jun Mingchen? Why did he choose to fight Jun Mingchen? There was no one else in the top 10. Another punch. The hearts of the crowd trembled, incomparably shocked. This frivolous and unruly young man was so terrifying. Chapter 871. At this instant, the handsome image of Jun Mingchen grew even more majestic. That was Song Ao, the number one genius of the Li Prefecture. With a single strike, his arm was severed and he rolled down the platform. The king armor on Jun Mingchen vanished. He stared ahead at Song Ao as he spoke. You can't even withstand a single strike. Are you even qualified to challenge me? After speaking, he returned to his original location and quietly sat down. It was as though defeating Song Ao wasn't something worthy of pride at all. Only the top 11 are left. There's still one more to go before the top 10 are determined. There shouldn't be anyone who dares to challenge Jun Mingchen and the other two. The hearts of the spectators mused. During the banquet, Dong Xingting cast a deep glance at Princess Liuli beside him. This Princess Liuli truly lived up to her reputation. Her judgment was extremely sharp. Indeed, Song Ao was eliminated. On the battle platform, silence fell once again. The 11 participants all maintained their silence, as though this matter had nothing to do with them. Nobody took the initiative to provoke others. After all, this was already the final battle of the top 10. Nobody had absolute confidence that they would be able to defeat the other participants. Hence, everyone was extremely cautious. This wait lasted for a very long time. Finally, the aura of one of the participants fluctuated as though he couldn't endure it any longer. This person was none other than the number one genius of the Blazing Sun Prefecture, Dugu Shishan. Dong Xingting's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he murmured, "Princess has such a sharp judgment. It's rumored that Princess Liuli is able to peer into fate and know one's fate. Indeed, her reputation is well-deserved. Could it be that Princess is able to predict the top 3 rankers?" Using constellations to predict one's fate is only one of the myriad of martial paths. This isn't prophecy. Nobody would be able to predict everything. It's impossible for me to predict the top 3 rankers. Princess Lioli calmly replied. On the battle platform, Dugushishan's aura flickered in and out of existence. He was a heaven chosen of the Blazing Sun Prefecture and cultivated the power of blazing flames. His cultivation art was extremely tyrannical, and the cultivation art he cultivated would surely influence Wu Xiu's personality. For example, for those who cultivated in sinister arts, their personality would gradually become more sinister. For those who cultivated in ice arts, their aura would also become more reserved, like a block of ice. This was the norm. Dugushishan pointed at Emowen and said, "What's the point of waiting like this? Emowen, I am number 1 in Chiang Province, and you are number 1 in Taiyin Province. Our cultivation powers are completely opposite. Let's fight." Emowen's figure was slim and her figure was perfect. She was an icy beauty. However, when she fought, her power was shocking. She stepped out, her frosty eyes staring at Dugushishan. Since Dugushishan wanted to fight, she could only accept. The two of them released their auras, one hot and one cold. Dugushishan's aura was incomparably blazing, as if it wanted to incinerate heaven and earth. Even the void seemed to be branded red. Emowen's aura was incomparably cold. Frost and frost extended outwards, sealing the heavens and earth. Even before the two of them clashed, cold and hot chi could already be felt congregating in the air. It was extremely terrifying, and there were even faint sounds of sizzling could be heard. The spectators only saw that on the platform, there seemed to be a clear division of space. One space was blazing like fire, the other was as cold as ice. The two auras grew stronger and stronger as they clashed against each other. Dugushishan and Emowen walked towards each other, step by step. In the airspace above Dugushishan, a wheel of flames appeared. An incomparably scorching flame appeared within it. In his hands, there was also a wheel of flames that could incinerate everything. In the airspace above Emowen, the goddess of frost wielded a long spear, guarding him. Boom! Within the wheel of flames, a boundless amount of flames akin to fire dragons erupted forth, transforming into beams of fiery light that shot towards Emowen. The goddess of frost in the airspace above Emowen stabbed out with her spear, causing the heavens and earth to be sealed in ice. Frost and frost appeared, even the flames were about to be frozen solid. Terrifying sounds of sizzling rang out unceasingly. Dugushishan finally rushed out. The wheel of flames in his hands arced through the air as a wheel of wind and fire appeared in the air. The blazing flames tore through the air, slicing apart the frost as it directly shot towards Emowen. The long spear in Emowen's hand stabbed out with incomparable precision, directly colliding with the wheel of wind and fire. The flames exploded as the wheel of wind and fire shattered. However, Dugushishan continued his frenzied attack. Countless wheels of wind and fire brought about sizzling sounds as they sliced through the air, madly rushing towards Emowen. In an instant, the ice was corroded by the destructive flames, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Emowen's entire body was covered in a snowy robe. Her long hair was like frost. A shadow appeared behind her, as though she had transformed into an ice goddess. She wielded an ice spear as her silhouette flickered. In an instant, countless silhouettes of ice goddesses appeared in the air, following Emowen's movements. All of them wielded ice spears at the same time as they slashed out. Terrifying rivers of ice gushed out as the two forces collided unceasingly in the air. Everything was destroyed. Emowen's body floated towards Dugushishan. The shadow behind her released a divine radiance, enveloping her. In the blink of an eye, she seemed to have appeared in front of Dugushishan. "You're courting death." Dugushishan coldly snorted. His body released a boundless blazing radiance, as though his entire being had transformed into raging flames that could incinerate everything. A buzzing sound rang out from his body as a terrifying blazing chi current surged out. His palms slammed out as the all-destroying wheel diagram flew towards Emowen. That terrifying flame was truly capable of incinerating the heavens and earth. However, at this moment, Mo Wen's body seemed to emit an extreme coldness, as though she was a true ice queen descending to earth. The ice goddess was protecting her, covering her in a divine radiance, immortal and impervious to the raging flames. That terrifying flame frantically attacked the icy radiance, yet it was unable to break through. Mo Wen's long spear pierced out. Dugu Shishan's countenance was filled with shock as he stared at Mo Wen's silhouette. The terrifying wheel blocked in front of him, yet it was directly pierced through by the long spear. Following which, the wheel was sealed in ice, shattering into pieces. His body was also gradually turning into ice as his arms were slowly being frozen. "I concede!" Dugu Shishan roared. He only needed an instant and his entire person would be transformed into an ice sculpture of death. As the sound of his voice faded, Mo Wen silently retreated. Dugu Shishan relied on the heat radiating from his body as well as the power of his bloodline to expel the ice from his body. His body swiftly recovered, but his countenance was still extremely unsightly to behold. This battle, he was defeated. He became the last person to be eliminated. Not only that, this battle was initiated by him. And now, the top 10 were revealed. Dong Shengting sighed in his heart. He couldn't help but to be impressed. Princess Lioli's judgment was much more accurate compared to his. She had hit the nail on the head. Song Ao and Dugu Shishan were the first to lose their patience. Both of them were defeated and eliminated. Dugu Shishan had a desolate look on his face as he walked down the platform. On the platform, only 10 participants remained. Congratulations to everyone for entering the top 10. Dong Shengting smiled, yet he was extremely unhappy in his heart. Among the top 10, Qin Wenyan, Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian occupied 3 spots. However, although Dong Shengting was unhappy, he didn't have any objections. This Qin Wenyan wasn't convinced back then and wanted to use his dazzling performance to enter the top 3, gaining the recognition of his father, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, and gaining a chance to interact with Princess Qin. Most probably, other than becoming the personal disciple of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, Qin Wenyan had no other way to ascend to the heavens in a single step and come into contact with the daughter of the Changqing the Great. Qin Wenyan was undoubtedly a fool talking nonsense. Even if he really managed to enter the Dongshengsheng Gate, Dong Shengting had 10,000 methods to ensure that Qin Wenyan would die without even knowing how he died. Naturally, even if this was the case, Dong Shengting still didn't wish for Qin Wenyan to enter the top 3. If this fellow managed to enter the top 3 and didn't do something crazy like what he had guessed, it would definitely damage the face of his father. Although he felt that the possibility of this was very small, it was still better to be cautious. The geniuses of this batch aren't bad at all. The top 10 all have outstanding talent. An immortal king praised. Very strong indeed, I'm filled with anticipation. Everyone, let's head down the platform to rest first. After being so tense for so long, it's time to enjoy the delicacies. Dong Shengting laughed. After that, the 10 participants walked down the platform and headed towards different directions. The direction of the Cloud Prefecture's camp was extremely conspicuous because there were 3 supreme geniuses heading there. When Qin Wenyan, Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian returned to the direction of the Cloud Prefecture, even those supreme geniuses of the Cloud Prefecture who didn't like them all shut their mouths at this moment. In the top 10, these 3 had a very high possibility of rising to glory. At the very least, they would be accepted as disciples by immortal kings. Although the 3 of them were very strong, the spectators didn't expect them to be this strong. All 3 of them actually managed to enter the top 10. How dazzling was that? Qin Wenyan didn't care about them at all. On the contrary, he calmly sat down. Their goal wasn't merely to enter the top 10. Next, for the final battle of the top 10, we shall determine the final ranking. Everyone, what do you all think the rules should be? Dong Shengting stared at everyone as he asked. Princess Lioli always has her own thoughts. Why don't we ask her opinion? Princess, what do you think? Dong Shengting smiled. The final battle is extremely important. We have to be extremely cautious. It's better for your highness and the elders of the Dongshengshan Gate to decide the rules. Princess Lioli rejected. She naturally knew that this was the best time to decide the final battle. She mustn't overstep her boundaries and meddle in the affairs of others. Might as well. Since Princess has already speculated, only the elders and me can make the decision. Dong Shengting nodded as he started to discuss with the immortal kings. For the top 3 rankers, shouldn't the rewards be decided? Let us all have a competitive heart. Only to see at this moment, a clear voice drifted over. The gazes of everyone turned in the direction of the Cloud Prefecture only to see that the person who spoke was none other than Jun Mingchen. All of them couldn't help but to curse in their hearts. This fellow was truly too impatient. Did he really think that he would be able to enter the top 3? However, given Jun Mingchen's strength, the spectators didn't dare to deny the possibility of this happening. However, becoming a sage child of the Dongshengshan Gate and being accepted as a personal disciple by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, wasn't this enough to make him competitive? Why must there be a reward? This fellow was truly comical. Little fellow, the status of one of the top 3 rankers is much more valuable compared to the rewards. An immortal king laughed. That's the personal disciple of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor. Let's talk about the rewards first. There's no conflict anyway. Jun Mingchen continued. He wouldn't take the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor as his master anyway. Okay then, I will talk about the rewards first. Dong Shengting laughed. Chapter 872. Dong Shengting stared at everyone as a smile appeared on his face. The rewards for the top 3 rankers, given the generosity of the Dongshengshan Gate, would surely be at the Immortal King grade. A treasure of this level was something even Immortal Foundation experts had no way to touch. Yet, the top 3 rankers of this Immortal Banquet actually had a chance to obtain it. How valuable was this? For this Immortal Banquet, the reward for the first ranker is a Sky Rock Rune Bone. This Sky Rock is the mount of one of the 4 paragons of our Dongshengshan Gate. Ordinary Immortal Kings all refer to him as Paragon Sky Rock, an Immortal Foundation greater demon with supreme strength. This rune bone contains the essence energy of Paragon Sky Rock within it. Dong Shengting spoke, causing the hearts of many Immortal Kings of the Dongshengshan Gate to tremble. Paragon Sky Rock? That incomparably lofty Sky Rock. If one could obtain the rune bone, it would definitely be extremely beneficial to one's comprehension. One could even sense the might of Paragon Sky Rock. Below, countless Immortal Foundation experts felt their hearts pounding. If they could obtain the rune bone, how good would that be? Sadly, only the top 3 rankers would be able to obtain it. The reward for the second ranker is also a treasure left behind by a paragon of our Dongshengshan Gate. This paragon once cultivated in a mountain rampart for thousands of years, and after that, the rampart transformed into an immortal rampart, containing the insights of that paragon. In fact, one could even see the essence energy of that paragon. It's extremely valuable. Dong Shengting continued, causing another round of exclamations of shock. Even Immortal Kings would want to obtain it. The 4 paragons of the Dongshengshan Gate were characters that followed the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor in his expeditions. They were supreme existences of the Dongshengshan Gate, the 4 strongest subordinates of the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor. The reward for the third ranker is an Immortal King ranked divine weapon. Because your strength is insufficient to unleash the power of a divine weapon of this level, this is a flying type divine weapon. Dong Shengting slowly spoke. An Immortal King ranked divine weapon was ranked 3rd. What concept was this? The 3 rewards were all Immortal King ranked treasures. Are you satisfied now? Dong Shengting smiled at Jun Mingchen. In that case I will get one of them. Jun Mingchen laughed heartily. His tone was still casual, but it also gave off an extremely arrogant feeling. It was as if he had already locked onto the top 3 spots. This was no ordinary level of arrogance. The remaining top 10 were all transcendents. Which one of them wasn't a peerless character? Top 3 was easier said than done. Other than Qin Wenyin and the other two demon-level geniuses, the others, Gusu Tianqi, Feather King, Hua Taishu, Ruthless, Yi Qianqian, Qin Ta, and Mo1. Every time the spectators saw these 10 people, they would feel a headache. They had a feeling that eliminating any one of them was an extremely cruel thing. I have a question I wish to consult your highness. At this moment, Princess Liuli spoke. Dong Xingting smiled. Princess, please speak. Hua Taishu and Ruthless are part of the top 10. In that case, will they be included in the final rankings? Princess Liuli asked. Hua Taishu and Ruthless were the disciples of the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King and the Undefeatable Devil King respectively. Not only that, the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King wasn't someone from the Dongshengshan Gate. What would happen if they were to be part of the top 3? Would the Dongxing Heaven Emperor also accept them as his personal disciples? Naturally, they will be included. Since they are part of the top 3, the rewards will still belong to them. My royal father won't force them to do things against their will. They can freely choose if they want to take my royal father as their master or not. Everyone will be treated equally. Dong Xingting laughed heartily, exuding an aura of elegance. I understand. Princess Lioli's countenance didn't change, but her heart was as clear as a mirror. Hua Taishu and Ruthless participating in the selection test was also a ploy by Dong Xingting. If the two of them were to become part of the top 3, the other participants would naturally have no qualifications to take the Dongxing Heaven Emperor as their master. If not, if others were to say that the talents of the Immortal Emperor's disciples were inferior to the disciples of the Myriad Incarnations Immortal King and the Undefeatable Devil King, wouldn't that be too good to hear? What sort of character was the Dongxing Heaven Emperor? Even if he didn't accept many disciples, he wouldn't allow such words to appear. Although in truth, it was impossible for all the disciples of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor to be more talented compared to the disciples of the other immortal kings. At the very least, such words must not appear in this once-a-100-year immortal banquet. Everything that happened here would surely be circulated around the immortal realms. Your Highness, the ranking test of the top 10 has to be carried out with extreme caution. We can't use a single battle to determine the rankings. I suggest we use 3 rounds of battles, just like how the top 10 participants suppressed their cultivation bases to compete against each other. This is the most direct test of combat prowess. There has to be such a battle. As for the first 2 rounds, we can invite the immortal kings here to act, testing their will and temperament. At this moment, a supreme immortal king from the Dongshengshan Gate spoke in a low voice. Naturally, as for the specifics, Your Highness has to make the final decision. I'm merely giving you a suggestion. What you said is logical. Combat prowess is the most important test. Since their cultivation bases are different, it's best to suppress one's cultivation base and fight against each other. However, we can't use a single battle to determine everything. Dong Xingting smiled and nodded. Let's do as you say. There will be 3 rounds and the rankings will be determined after each round. It's best if we use the results of the 3 rounds to determine the final ranking. Your Highness will make the decision. The immortal kings at the side nodded in agreement. For the first round, we shall hand it over to the Dream Demon King. It's most suitable for the Dream Demon King to be the one testing the top 10. Dong Xingting glanced at an immortal king not far away from him. This immortal king was clad in black robes, but he was currently leaning against a chair, sleeping leisurely as though he was in a deep sleep. Dong Xingting didn't mind. He knew that the Dream Demon King had heard his words. This Dream Demon King was definitely the nightmare of many experts. He could kill in his dreams and was one of the most terrifying existences in the Dongshengshan Gate. Indeed, it's very suitable for the Dream Demon King to be the one testing the top 10. The Immortal Kings laughed. However, it's still early now. Let's let them rest for a while more before we continue drinking. Dong Xingting raised his wine cup and toasted the Immortal Kings. The group of them chatted. The atmosphere was extremely harmonious. Senior brother. At this moment, Jun Mingchen stared at Qin Wenyan as he spoke. Qin Wenyan turned to Jun Mingchen only to hear Jun Mingchen transmitting his voice to him. Senior brother, you have a grudge with Dong Xingting and Deep Flame. Before this, The Deep Flame Immortal King hinted that you are destined to not be able to enter the top 3. In addition, this Dong Xingting has always been very polite, like a smiling tiger. Would he intentionally target you in the final round? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed. He didn't expect Jun Mingchen to have thought of this point. Before this, he heard Dong Xingting saying that there would be 3 rounds and the final round would be a head-on battle. The rules were all set by Dong Xingting and it wasn't impossible for Dong Xingting to target him. Mengchen, if they really want to target us, all 3 of us might be targeted. Let's counter soldiers with generals and do our best. During the most important round, they wouldn't be able to target us even if they wanted to. Qin Wendian replied. Jun Mingchen nodded his head. If they really want to target us, let's turn the heavens and earth upside down. The 3 of them chatted, but Dong Xingting's carefree voice drifted over. Everyone, the rules for the top 10 have already been set. For the first round, the Dream Demon King shall act. Now, the top 10 geniuses, please step onto the battle platform. When the 10 geniuses heard this, they respectively stepped onto the platform and stood in different locations. The Dream Demon King was still sleeping. It was like he had never woken up before. For this round, the Dream Demon King will act. Whoever can no longer persist will be ranked last, and the one who can persist till the end will be ranked first. Naturally, this is merely the ranking for the first round. For the next 3 rounds, there will be rankings for all participants. At the very end, the overall ranking will be determined. Dong Xingting slowly spoke. He then stared at the Dream Demon King and continued, Now, Senior can act. There were no signs or auras. The Dream Demon King didn't even move, but at this instant, the 10 geniuses on the platform suddenly felt the scene before their eyes changing. They were no longer on the battle platform. Dreamscape. Qin Wentian's countenance flickered. Right now, around him was a vast land. He was brought into the dreamscape of the Dream Demon King. Soundless and formless. Too powerful, he instantly entered the dreamscape. Qin Wendian stared at his surroundings. There was nothing here. He found a stone platform and sat cross-legged as he closed his eyes to meditate. The silence in this space was so terrifying that it was terrifying. In fact, there were no signs of life at all. It was as though he was exiled into this dreamscape. Time seemed to pass by a very long time. Qin Wendian calmed his heart and focused, not caring about external matters. But at this moment his eyes opened. In front of him, a silhouette appeared. This silhouette was pure and flawless, akin to a snow lotus on an ice mountain. That perfect body was flawless, and her beautiful eyes were so clear and penetrating. Qin Wendian mumbled. He stared at the silhouette that appeared. Are you okay? Qinger's countenance changed as a soul-stirring smile appeared on her face. This is just a dream. How can you appear here? Qin Wendian laughed in self-mockery. But he truly missed Qinger. As he thought of this, his lips curled up in a smile as many scenes flashed before his eyes. The time he spent with Qinger all flashed before his eyes. From the first time they met in the Celestial Lake Palace, Qinger was instructed by Fairy Qingmei to follow him. Bit by bit, these scenes appeared in his vision. Qin Wendian was immersed in his memories. Traces of longing could be seen in his eyes. This is the dreamscape of the Dream Demon King. Am I unable to stabilize my state of mind? I'm actually missing Qinge. Qin Wendian silently mused. He discovered that at this moment, he was no longer in the wilderness. Instead, he was truly immersed in his memories. These memories were like a dream that was happening right now. Abruptly, Qin Wendian felt his entire body turning cold as cold sweat appeared on his back. He also cultivated the mandate of dreams. This wasn't the dream of the Dream Demon King, it was his dream. The Dream Demon King was spying on his dreams, spying on his memories. No! Qin Wendian guarded his mind, wanting to block out all distracting thoughts. However, he discovered that the scenes of the past flashed before his eyes one after another. At this moment, it wasn't only about Qinge, it was also about himself. The spectators naturally didn't know what was happening to them. The top 10 geniuses all stood on the platform unmoving. The Dream Demon King didn't move at all from the start to the end. Only Dong Shengting's eyes gleamed brightly as he stared at the participants. When his gaze landed on Qin Wenyin, it would flicker with sharpness. Chapter 873. What sort of status did the Dream Demon King have? He was the king of dreams and had control over powerful law energy. He could easily enter the dreamscape of others. Where did dreams come from? They were born from the subconscious of humans. The Dream Demon King could make use of dreams to invade the subconscious of humans, prying into their most important memories. In the depths of Qin Wenyan's consciousness, his most precious memories would naturally appear. At this moment, Qin Wenyan's aura gushed forth frenziedly. There was actually a powerful tempest that engulfed the platform, erupting forth, causing many people to be startled as they stared in the direction of Qin Wenyin. In the dreamscape, Qin Wenyin wanted to break free from it, stabilizing his state of mind, not allowing the Dream Demon King to pry into his memories. However, it was as though he was being controlled by a mysterious law energy. He had no way to break free from those memories. He thought of Qingqing again. It was like he could see Qingqing waiting for him in the particle world. That flawless countenance, her beautiful eyes like water, filled with boundless longing, as though she was waiting for his return. The medicine sovereign stood beside Qingqing, trying to persuade her. These were the thoughts in his subconscious, manifesting in his dreamscape. Qin Wenyan's countenance turned pale and unsightly. The more he recalled, the more the Dream Demon King would understand him, and the more secrets he would be able to pry into. Rage. At this moment, Qin Wenyin felt as though he was split into two. On one side, he wanted to struggle free. But on the other side, he couldn't control himself. Despicable. Qin Wenyin roared in his heart. Was this really a test? This was clearly spying on him. To Wu Xiu, this was a great taboo. No stellar martial cultivator was allowed to pry into the memories of others. Everyone had their own secrets, and once this taboo was breached, it would result in a great deal of hatred. Hence, for those who were proficient in soul-searching, no one would be willing to interact with them. And the Dream Demon King was making use of this test to pry into his memories. His memories flashed unceasingly. He thought of his loved ones in the particle world. His foster father Qin Chuan, Yi Qingyun, his sister Qin Yao, world Rohuan, his master Mustang and the others. He also thought of Fatty Fanlu, Ouyang Quangxing and the others. This can't go on. Qin Wenyan's other voice bellowed. An imposing figure seemed to appear in front of him. This figure looked at him with a smile, yet it was indomitable. Wisps of white flames started burning in his body, getting brighter and brighter, illuminating his heart. In an instant, it engulfed his entire body. Get out! A furious roar resounded through the fighting ring. Qin Wenyin suddenly opened his eyes and took a few steps back. He had already woken up. At this instant, numerous gazes landed on Qin Wenyin. Dong Shengting's countenance was as calm as ever, but a sharp light flickered within. The deep flame Immortal King was coldly laughing in his heart. Top 3? Did he really think he could enter the top 3? Qin Wenyin was indulging in the wildest fantasies. No matter if he came here with sincerity and wanted to fight for another chance to enter the tutelage of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, Dong Shengting would never allow him to enter the top 3. As for Dong Shengting, he was the controller of the rules. Although on the surface he was asking for the opinions of everyone, there was no need to doubt who the true controller of the rules was. Dong Shengting. The first genius to be unable to persist, this Qin Wenyin is ranked number 27 in the Cloud Prefecture. His combat prowess is extremely powerful, but who would have thought that he would be the first to fail in the first test? An Immortal King sighed. The Dream Demon King tests one's will and temperament. Sometimes, although one's combat prowess is strong, it doesn't mean that one's will and temperament would be outstanding as well. In addition, there are no weaklings among the top 10. All of them are extremely powerful. It's only normal for Qin Wenyin to be the first to be eliminated. Another Immortal King stated, "Don't be anxious, this is only the first test. Who knows, Maybe he would have an outstanding performance in the next 2 rounds. Seniors, don't be too hasty to make a judgment. Dong Shengting laughed, as though he was speaking up for Qin Wenyan. Princess Lioli's beautiful eyes flickered with a strange light as she stared at Qin Wenyan on the platform. From her perspective, Qin Wenyan shouldn't be the first to be eliminated. This person's patience was extremely strong, his will was extremely resolute, and his temperament was extraordinary. Even if he wasn't the most outstanding, he wouldn't be the first to be eliminated. As she thought of this, Princess Glaze cast a deep glance at the sleeping Dream Demon King, as well as the other immortal kings who were whispering to each other. All of them were laughing and chatting with each other, as though none of them had discovered anything amiss at all. This scene was so obvious. However, did they really not know anything at all? Unable to persist? Qin Wenyan exited because he couldn't persist any longer? He took the initiative to break free. Qin Wenyan stood on the platform as he surveyed his surroundings. The other 9 participants were still immersed in their respective tests and hadn't exited yet. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared in the direction of the Dream Demon King. However, he didn't say anything. What would he say? That he had been treated unfairly? This place was the Dongshengsheng Gate and the Dream Demon King was the examiner appointed by Dong Shengting. The Dream Demon King only needed to find an excuse and say that it was one of the tests. What could Qin Wenyan do? Maybe Dong Shengting set up this test so that if he lost, he wouldn't be able to refute. If he did, the other immortal kings could directly say that his temperament was too weak. And if he lost, he could still blame the examiner, the Dream Demon King. Dong Shengting was telling him whose territory this was. The words of the Deep Flame Immortal King rang out in his mind. Some endings were already destined. But was it really destined? Qin Wenyan closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the platform, not saying a single word. He had long prepared himself in his heart and was prepared to be targeted. In that case, what else could he say? Everything would depend on the ending. The tests of the others continued. Time flowed by and Qin Ta was the second to exit. After him was Zi Qingxian. Zi Qingxian was the third to awaken. When she woke up, her breathing was hurried and she drew in a deep breath before she stabilized her state of mind. She saw that Qin Wenyan had also awoken as a look of bewilderment appeared on her face. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyan. What did you encounter in the dreamscape? Memory prying. He wanted to pry into my memories, but I broke free from it myself. Qin Wenyan didn't hide anything from Zi Qingxian. He then asked, what about you? What a terrifying dreamscape. He was searching for the things I feared the most in my subconscious, trying to provoke me. Zi Qingxian stared at Qin Wenyan. Seems like the Dream Demon King treats everyone differently. For the 10 of them, the difficulty of the tests can be completely different and he can even decide the rankings. Qin Wenyan coldly transmitted his voice over. Zi Qingxian understood. So what if this was the test of the Dongshengsheng Gate? At the start, everything was done according to the rules. But at the end of the test, if there was something fishy going on, who would dare to pursue the matter? Yi Qianchen was the fourth to exit. After him was Jun Mengchen. Senior brother Qin, senior sister Qingxian, what are your rankings? Jun Mengchen directly transmitted his voice over. I'm third from the bottom. Zi Qingxian replied. I'm first from the bottom. Qin Wenyan replied. The words of the 2 of them caused Jun Mingchen's eyes to narrow as his countenance turned extremely unsightly to behold. How outstanding were the performances of these 3 fellow apprentices before this? But when it came to the ranking of the top 10, their performances were no longer so outstanding. The top 10 are simply too strong. An immortal king in the banquet spoke. That's true. Qin Wenyan, Hua Taishu and Hua Taishu were all ranked at the bottom 5. Not a single one of them managed to enter the top 5. Such a performance wasn't as outstanding as their earlier performances. After that, Emolwen was also eliminated, followed by Ruthless and Feather King. Gusu Tianqi, as expected of a supreme genius, and also the disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king. He has experienced the world of reincarnation and his state of heart is extraordinary. The crowd sighed in admiration when they saw Gusutianchi and Hua Taishu persisting till the end. Myriad incarnations, your disciple is truly outstanding. Someone stared at the myriad incarnations immortal king as he laughed. The myriad incarnations immortal king had a smile on her face. For this round, if the conditions were the same, she felt that Hua Taishu would definitely be ranked first. But at this moment, Hua Taishu's eyes suddenly opened. The myriad incarnations immortal king was bewildered when she saw this scene, but she merely smiled in response. That's right, if her disciple was ranked first, wouldn't it be a little too inappropriate? Gusu Tianchi was the last to awaken. The 10 of them all woke up one after another. The Dream Demon King was still in a deep slumber, as though nothing had happened. Everything had nothing to do with him. Many thanks for the Dream Demon King's help. Dong Xingting smiled. He stared at the top 10 geniuses on the platform as he spoke. Everyone, being able to persist for so long under the Dream Demon King's test is truly extraordinary. This is especially so for Gusu Tianchi and Hua Taishu. Awesome. Naturally, for those who are ranked at the bottom, don't be discouraged. Dong Xingting spoke as he turned his gaze to Qin Wenyan and smiled. There are still 2 more rounds of tests after this. As long as your performance is outstanding, you would still be able to turn the tables around. All the immortal kings, let's see your performance. The participants all fell silent. Qin Wenyan stared at Dong Xingting's handsome countenance, exuding a graceful demeanor. Everything seemed so natural to him. Now, I shall announce the rankings for the first round. First, Gusu Tianchi. Second, Hua Taishu. Third, Feather King. Fourth, Ruthless. Fifth, Mo Wen. Sixth, Jun Mingchen. Seventh, Yi Qianxian. Eighth, Zi Qingxian. Ninth, Qin Ta. And 10th, Qin Wenyan. Dong Xingting slowly spoke, announcing the rankings for the first round. In this round, Qin Wenyan's ranking was directly pushed to the last place. The eyes of the Deep Flame Immortal King flickered as he stared at the platform. Dong Xingting was truly ruthless enough. In this case, what could Qin Wenyan do to turn the tables around? Top 3? Dream on. Chapter 874. Dong Xingting had a smile on his face, exuding an extraordinary demeanor. He stared at the participants as he continued, the rankings of the first round can't determine the final rankings. Next, everyone still has to work hard and fight for the top 3 positions. Can I give you a suggestion? At this moment, a voice drifted over from the ancient Zhantian platform. Momentarily, everyone turned their gazes over. It was none other than Jun Mingchen. Dong Xingting also noticed Jun Mingchen as he smiled. Speak. For the second round, can you be more transparent? At the very least, let everyone know what we experienced. Jun Mingchen faintly spoke, his words causing strange expressions to appear on the faces of the participants. Given their intelligence, they naturally understood the meaning behind Jun Mingchen's words. However, although this Jun Mingchen had an explosive temper, he didn't say it so directly. But evidently, he was hinting at something. In the earlier first round, the Dream Demon King entered our dreamscape. I asked my senior brothers and sisters about it, and the experiences of everyone are different. Although Senior Dream Demon King is the one controlling everything, it's inevitable that there would be some deviation. In fact, if I were to say something disrespectful, Senior Dream Demon King can decide the rankings with a single thought. Because in front of Senior Dream Demon King, we have no way to resist at all. If he wants us to come out, we have to come out. Jun Mingchen continued, his tone sharper than before. However, he still didn't doubt the results of the first round and wouldn't really go against Dong Xingting and the Dream Demon King. He understood that there would be no results if he did so. Hence, I suggest to Your Highness that for the second round, it's better to be more transparent. In this case, at the very least, everyone would know what they experienced and the seniors here would be able to see it with a single glance. At the very least, no one would doubt the results of the second round. After all, this is the immortal banquet hosted by the Dong Shengshan Gate. Jun Mingchen's last sentence was extremely obvious. This was the immortal banquet of the Dong Shengshan Gate. If you, Dong Xingting, wanted to control things from the shadows, you could directly decide the ending. I also agree with Jun Mingchen's suggestion. I hope your highness can consider it. Zi Qingxian added. Her countenance was calm, no emotions could be seen in her beautiful eyes. I think so too. At this moment, an indifferent voice rang out. It was Mo Wen's voice. 3 people had spoken up consecutively. This was not a lightweight, and one of them was not Qin Wenyin. I also hope that next time, if I, Qin, am in last place again, I will be convinced. Qin Wenyin faintly spoke. Mo Wen's attitude caused him to be taken aback. Initially, he didn't want to say anything, but in this case, 4 out of the 10 participants had already expressed their opinions. This Dong Xingting had no choice but to seriously consider their opinions. The 4 of them clearly pointed out a topic. If Dong Xingting insisted on doing things his way, it would be too obvious. Since all of you have put it this way, I, Dong Xingting, naturally agree. Dong Xingting straightforwardly agreed with no hesitation. The misunderstanding caused by the first round was due to my lack of consideration. The 10 participants in the final round are all peerless geniuses, brimming with confidence. It's only natural for them to feel indignant about being ranked at the bottom. I should have thought of this earlier. I should have arranged for everyone to see the battle clearly so that I wouldn't be questioned. For the first round, I caused everyone to misunderstand. The 10 participants of the second round are all supreme geniuses that exuded boundless magnificence throughout the generations and were filled with confidence. Since they were ranked last, they naturally wouldn't be convinced in their hearts. I should have thought of this earlier and arranged for a round where everyone could see it clearly. That way, I wouldn't be doubted. As the sound of his voice faded, a moment later, several experts moved a gigantic devil statue towards the battle platform. This devil statue was extremely terrifying, containing an intense will within it. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, 3 faces and 3 pairs of eyes. No matter where one was, they would be able to see the devil statue's eyes with a single glance. This devil statue was extremely terrifying, as though it contained an intense will within. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, 3 faces and 3 pairs of eyes. No matter where one was, they would be able to see the devil statue's eyes with a single glance. However, when the participants stared intently at the devil statue's eyes, they instantly felt a terrifying vortex swirling around them. Those pitch-black eyes seemed to want to devour them as numerous terrifying devil generals lunged towards them, causing their countenances to tremble as they hurriedly averted their gazes, guarding their hearts and minds. This devil statue is extremely strange. The hearts of everyone trembled. Those experts moved the devil statue towards the platform and directly moved it up, placing it at the center of the platform. Qin Wenyin and the other 8 geniuses already discovered the strangeness of the devil statue when it was moved up. This devil statue contained a fearsome will and was able to attack people. Dong Xingting then spoke. The second test is very simple. This devil statue contains an extremely powerful will. You guys just have to circle around it and stare at the eyes of the statue, enduring its might. Whoever can shift their eyes away first would be ranked last, and whoever persisted the longest would be ranked first. In this case, the test should be transparent enough, right? Dong Xingting nodded. That's right. Qin Wendian nodded. The participants didn't say anything more. Dong Xingting continued. Right now, the 10 of you, stand in your positions and circle around the devil statue. Close your eyes, and when I say, start, all of you have to open your eyes at the same time and stare into the eyes of the statue. The 10 geniuses followed Dong Xingting's instructions and stood in 10 different positions around the devil statue. They faced the statue and closed their eyes. In just an instant, all 10 of them were in their positions. It's about to begin. The second round is extremely important. Qin Wenyin, Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian didn't seem to be convinced by the results of the first round and were ranked at the back. But if their rankings are any worse in the second round, there's no hope for them to enter the top 3. Gusu Tianqi is indeed the top ranker of the Eastern Prefecture. His popularity is still the highest and there's no need to doubt his combat prowess. and in the first round of the test, he already obtained the first position. As long as he is ranked within the top 3 in this round, he would already be one of the top 3 rankers. The disciple of the myriad incarnations immortal king, Hua Taishu, also has a high chance of entering the top 3. Other than Gusutanshi and Hua Taishu, there's only Feather King left. Before this, they all thought that Qin Wenyan and Jun Mengchen also had a high chance of entering the top 3. But after the first round, their ranking was already too low. Their chances of entering the top 3 had plummeted. Now, they had to see if they could turn the situation around. Begin. At this moment, Dong Xingting's voice rang out. The 10 geniuses all opened their eyes at the same time, staring into the eyes of the devil statue. At the instant Qin Wendian opened his eyes, he instantly felt his heart trembling. This was a pair of devil eyes, akin to an unparalleled abyss. In just an instant, one's consciousness would be drawn into it. Qin Wenyan had a feeling that his soul was being pulled into another dimension. That was a strand of his consciousness being drawn into the eyes of the devil statue. This was a terrifying abyss, a blood-colored world where there was no daylight. This entire world was akin to purgatory. The ancient city was in ruins, the earth was broken, and there were many broken divine weapons stabbed into the ground, stained with fresh blood. Abruptly, Qin Wenyan inclined his head as his heart pounded violently. He saw a devil that was over 10 million meters tall, like a supreme devil king staring at him. This devil stretched his hand out, and a moment later, a blood-colored saber appeared in his hand, exuding a terrifying aura. The devil lifted the saber and slashed it out, causing the heavens and earth to be split apart. Qin Wentian's countenance paled. There was no way he could defend against this saber that slashed through the skies. A single slash was sufficient to slay him. No, it's just a strand of my consciousness. As long as my soul remains, my will remains unaffected. Qin Wenyan warned himself. As the saber light descended, everything dissipated. Qin Wentian's body was directly split apart. It was as though he had just experienced a baptism of death. Outside, Qin Wentian's original body groaned in misery. His countenance was as pale as paper, and he felt an intense pain in his head. He took a step back, but his gaze was still fixed on the statue before him, unwavering. His eyes were still fixated on that pair of devilish eyes. The devil eyes contained a terrifying, devouring power. Once again, a strand of Qin Wentian's consciousness was drawn into it. Qin Wenyan appeared in that blood-colored world once more. The Devil King in the air was still staring at him, exuding an incomparably terrifying coldness. This time, the Devil King's palm slashed downwards. Qin Wendian felt the heavens and earth turning dark. He wanted to flee, yet he discovered that there was no place for him to flee. In just an instant, his body was grabbed by the incomparably gigantic Devil King, lifted up and placed in front of his eyes. The eyes of the Devil King were as terrifying as the abyss, able to pierce through him with a single glance. After that, the Devil King clenched his fist, causing Qin Wenyan to feel a sense of despair and agony. After that, his body directly turned into ashes as he experienced death once more. This time around, it was even more miserable compared to the last time. Qin Wentian's original body retreated a few more steps as he groaned in misery. His countenance grew even paler. Not only him, the others also had some reaction. It was just that Qin Wentian's reaction was the most intense. In fact, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a blood-red light. However, he continued to stare fixedly ahead. That pair of devilish eyes was like a bottomless abyss, corroding his sea of consciousness once more. There was no way to block it at all. Could it be that this Qin Wentian's will is truly weak? Before this, he was ranked last. But now, the one with the greatest reaction is him again. An immortal king spoke. However, the myriad incarnations immortal king, undying immortal king, and the others all frowned, feeling some doubt in their hearts. They had met Qin Wendian before in the past. He was extremely powerful and had a resolute will. Although the 10 people here were all very strong, he shouldn't be the weakest among them. However, the truth was right before their eyes. Everyone was facing the same predicament. Qin Wendian was no exception. Bai Wuya was calm from start to end. From the start till the end, he didn't say anything and was like an outsider. Although the countenance of the white-robe immortal king was calm, there were waves of shock in his heart. This examination was truly difficult for these little fellows. Dong Shengting clearly didn't allow them to obtain the top 3. Qin Wenyan, if they wanted to pass the examination, they had to fight against the rules. Casting a deep glance at the devil statue, Bai Wuya completely believed that there was something strange about this statue. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.